Almighty God, we beseech you to build with the abundant favor and blessings as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to leadership positions in this republic. We seek guidance to treat and consider all matters that shall come under deliberation in so just and faithful a manner as to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those interests you have committed to our church. Amen. We have quorum, clerk? Okay, Sergeant at Arms, ring the quorum bell for 10 minutes. Extend the quorum bell for another 10 minutes. Clerk? Clerk, are we going to go? Yeah, okay. Now, we have quorum now, order members. Let us now start the business of the day. Clerk, call out the first order. Clerk, call out the first order. Let's proceed.
Order number 1, administration of oath.
Next order.
Order number 2, communication from the chair.
Okay. Honorable Senators have this communication to make on the deferral of questions and the appearance of cabinet secretaries to respond to questions in the Senate on Wednesday, 27th November 2024 and Wednesday, 4th December 2024. Minority, Deputy Minority, find yourself to the nearest seat. Honorable Senators, I have a communication to make relating to the decision by the Senate Business Committee, SBC, on the appearance of cabinet secretaries to respond to questions. As you are all aware, standing orders 51A, 51B, 51C, and 51D gives the framework for asking of questions to cabinet secretaries by honorable senators. Ordinarily, the questions are scheduled in the order paper for Wednesday morning sitting. However, as honorable senators are also aware, the third session is almost ending after the Senate will proceed on the long December to January recess. As such, the pending business before the Senate necessitates that we take drastic measures if we are to conclude on the same before the recess. Honorable Senators, as its meeting held on Tuesday, 26 November 2024, the Senate Business Committee considered the program of Senate business and observed the need to prioritize consideration of urgent business. To facilitate this, the committee resolved that questions will not be scheduled for reply on Wednesday, 4th December 2024 morning sitting. Further, the committee also resolved the questions which were scheduled for reply today, Wednesday, 27th November 2024 morning sitting be deferred. On Senator Mudigi and your colleagues, kindly listen to this communication. This decision was informed by the need to prioritize pressing business before the Senate, including but not limited to the following. A, debate on the President's address to Parliament, delivered at a special sitting held on Thursday, 21st November 2024. B, consideration of mediation committee reports on inter alia 1, the Division of Revenue, Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 38 of 2024. 2, the Equalization Fund Appropriation number 2 Bill, Senate Bills number 30 of 2023. And 3, the County Government's Additional Allocations Bill, Senate Bills number 19 of 2024. Honorable Senators, you can find your way to your seats. So, consideration of His Excellency the President's memorandum on the counter allocation of revenue bill, Senate Bills number 25 for 2024, and D, consideration of 1, the county government's equitable share and the county government's additional allocations cash disbursement schedules. 2, motions by various select committees, more specifically the County Public Accounts and the County Public Investments and Special Funds Committees. And 3, various bills at the second reading under the Committee of the Hostages. So, Honorable Senators, consequently, I urge Honorable Senators to prioritize their presence in the chamber in the coming days to ensure progress is made on the business I rated above. I also urge the respective movers of the business scheduled in the order papers for the sittings to be present in the chamber to prosecute them. The Senate majority and the minority whips are encouraged to mobilize the requisite number of county delegations for the divisions to be undertaken. I thank you. Next order.
Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the Senate today, 27 November 2024. The biannual report of the Commission on Administrative Justice for the period January-June 2024.
Thank you. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Yeah, I've made communication concerning the questions, so order number 7 today is not tenable for the question time. Next order.
Order number 8, motion, debate on the President's address to Parliament, second day. Resumption of debate interrupted on Tuesday, 26th November 2024. Question to be put.
Honorable Senators, the debate on this motion was concluded yesterday, and the mover also replied. So I will now want to ascertain whether we have quorum to put the question. Honourable members. Honourable Senators, I now put the question that pursuant to Standing Order 27-6, the Senate reckons its thanks to the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President, delivered on Thursday, 21st November 2024, and laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 26th November 2024. And B, notes the following report submitted by His Excellency the President in fulfillment of Articles 132(1)(c), 1 and 247 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 26th November 2024. 1, the 11th Annual Report 2023-2024 on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of national values and principles of governance. And 2, the Annual Report on the state of national security for the period 1st September 2023 to that 1st August 2024. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of a contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, motion, report of the Mediation Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 38 of 2024.
I want to call upon the Vice Chairperson of the Mediation Committee to move the motion, who is the Chair of Finance and Budget.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you. I wish to indicate to the House that on behalf of the Vice Chairman of the committee, the Mediation Committee, I wish to move the bill, which is the Mediation Committee on the Division of the Revenue. Mr. Speaker, can I be protected?
Honourable members, what is happening here, Majority Leader? Why? You are being invented. I don't know the reason. Proceed. Sorry?
Mr. Speaker, I want first of all to take this opportunity.
I beg your pardon. Can you kindly start again? Maybe there was some miscommunication which was not correct.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to indicate to the House that I'm standing in for the Vice Chairman of the report on this particular report of the Mediation Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024, National Assembly Bill number 38 of 2024. Mr. Speaker, before I move the report, I wanted to take this opportunity to thank the committee members, and in particular, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank...
sorry, Senator Mungatana. Can you kindly read out the content on the motion? That the Senate adopts the report, then you continue to give your comment. You must move the motion.
I beg to move. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Senate adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, National Assembly's Bills number 38 of 2024, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 26th, 2024, and further, that pursuant to Article 113, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, and Standing Order 167, Sub 3 of the Senate, approves the mediated version of the bill. Mr. Speaker, I wanted to say, first of all, that who took time to mediate and give us a version of the bill that can be adopted by both houses. Mr. Speaker, I want to single out the leadership of our own Senator Captain Ali Ibrahim Roba as co-chairperson and Honorable Ndidi Nyoro as the co-chairperson on the side of the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, I want to also single out the members who participated in this mediation effort. Mr. Speaker, Senator Sifuna, Honorable Mary Amase, Senator Julius Murgor, Honorable Chikati, Senator Faki, Honorable Makali, Senator Maina, Honorable Ochieng, Senator Onyonka, Honorable Kiplagat, Senator Wamatinga, Honorable Atiende Amolo, Honorable Fatuma Jeho, Honorable Giambo Oundo, myself, and Senator Eddie Gesheru. I thank all these members, Mr. Speaker, for giving time to deal with the matter that was before us. Mr. Speaker, there is a recommendation on the mediated version of the bill which has been attached to this report. And Mr. Speaker, the big issue we dealt with there during the mediation was the fact that there were revenue shortfalls that came as a result of the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024. Mr. Speaker, the withdrawal of the Finance Bill had some unprecedented implication on government finances. Mr. Speaker, this occasioned a shortfall in projected revenue collection of 346 billion in the financial year 2024-2025. Realities that we were faced with when we sat on your behalf in that committee, that there was need to approve a version that will allow the National Treasury to produce and allocate approved amounts to the counties that were in fact available. It would not make sense for us to stick to a hardline position when in fact National Treasury would not have the capacity to disburse the amounts that we sought. Equally, Mr. Speaker, there was additional funding that was sought by the counties, but these were occasioned by policies of the national government. For example, Mr. Speaker, contributions by county to the housing levy, NSSF contributions, counterpart funding for community health promoters, county aggregation and industrial parks, amongst many others. These are national government policies, Mr. Speaker, that required funding, counterpart funding from the county governments, and because of that, counties had requested for additional funding. So, Mr. Speaker, we are trying to explain the rationale behind us taking a lower amount as opposed to what we had agreed here as a house. So we agreed, and having considered the possible options, the committee resolved that A, the national government equitable share for the financial year 2024-2025 be 993 million, if I'm not reading it wrong. The county equitable share for the financial year 2024-2025 be 347 billion 425 million. So let me read the first one again. The national government equitable share for the financial year 2024-2025 be 2,235,993,000,000. The county equitable share for the financial year 2024-2025 be 387,425,000,000. The equalization fund be 8 billion, of which 7,825,814,725 is the constitutional 0.5%, and 147,185,275 is the contribution of arrears to the fund. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, D, clause 3 of the bill is deleted in its entirety. This implies that the section where the revenue fall, there will be shortfall within the revenues in the financial year 2024-2025 was to be shared between the two levels of government, and the capping of what to be borne by the county governments at 15% was dropped. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, the provisions of Section 5 of the DORA 2024 remain, and in that case, and in case of revenue shortfall, it shall be borne by the national government. Similarly, in case of excess revenue collection, it shall accrue to the national government and may be used to reduce deficit or to defray public debt. Mr. Speaker, in short, that is the agreement. And the last thing we also said was that we wanted to encourage county governments to establish strategies and mechanisms to improve the collection of on-source revenue in order to reduce over-reliance on equitable share as a main source of funding. Mr. Speaker, I have attached the minutes of the committee. I have also attached the agreed version of the bill. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to say one thing before we close, before I move. Mr. Speaker, the team that this House sent for the mediation was a very competent team. And we were led by none other than our finance chairman, the Honorable Captain Roba. We did the best. We even had, there were those open sessions that you saw on TV, which were carried live, but there were also closed sessions, which were done out of the sight of the public, where we were given figures and taken through. We also agreed, Mr. Speaker, that this team, we listened to presentation that was saying, even if we insist on some position, Mr. Speaker, there's a possibility that Treasury in reality may not be able to disburse the amounts despite the willingness. So it could be a situation where the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. So, Mr. Speaker, I wanted to ask, I humbly beg our members to have confidence that what we did was what is good for us, because we are also being faced with the reality that if we do not have an agreed version, then our county governments are going to be stuck. We are going to grind to a halt. Whatever we are using now, whatever county governments are using is going to end by December. And Mr. Speaker, all of us who have been going to the counties, we know the problems that the counties are suffering. So if we are the protectors of these counties, and if we have been led ably by the team that is there, and we have been given the figures that Treasury was able to display to us, Mr. Speaker, I really truly urge that we support. I'm asking colleagues that you have faith that what we did was the best deal we could secure for us. And I'm asking honorable members to look at the other threat of our own counties coming to a grinding halt. So, Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I also wanted to encourage that county governments, please increase your own source of revenue. We feel, again, even in that mediation committee, that we need to do more so that we can reduce the reliance on the equitable share. So, Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I beg to move and ask Honorable Sifuna, who was also a member of this committee, to second this motion. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Just like Senator Mungatana, I was extremely honored to be nominated by this House to represent the Senate in this mediation. In defense of devolution, Honorable Speaker, I cannot have asked for greater allies to go to war, if I might use that term, with the National Assembly on this particular issue. I want to take this opportunity to thank the chairperson of our budget committee, the Honorable Senator Captain Ali Roba, for providing very robust leadership of the Senate team. Of course, the Senator for Mombasa, Mwenye Haji Faki, and Veronica Maina, together with Richard Onyonka, Senator Matinga, who is my chair of energy, Senator Mungatana, and Senator Eddie Okech. Because it was my first time, Honorable Speaker, in a mediation such as this, I honestly would not want to be in a different team other than this one. Because when we met the members of the National Assembly, they had also sent a very strong team, and they kept reminding us at every turn that many of them were PhDs and doctors, and economists like the Honorable Makali Mulu, doctor, who kept reminding us that we may be lawyers, we might see certain things, but when it comes to figures and numbers, we need to take a back seat and listen to him. So it was a very interesting exercise, Honorable Speaker. But one of the things that we could agree upon, especially as a Senate, and as I said yesterday during debate on the President's State of the Nation address, it is very easy to agree on other things once you agree on principles. And Honorable Speaker, I can be very proud of the position that this Senate took, that there are certain principles we laid on the table from the onset of this mediation. The first principle, Honorable Chair, was that counties must never in any financial year receive money less than what they received in the preceding financial year. And we were able to convince members of the National Assembly on this important principle. Number two, Honorable Speaker, because of inflationary trends and other things that crop up, including growth in annual wages, there has always to be year on year an increment in the allocation to counties, even if it be marginal in exceptional years such as this, when we do not have a finance act in place. Honorable Speaker, the third principle that we agreed upon, we were able to convince our colleagues from the National Assembly, is that the shortfalls, any shortfalls in revenue can never be borne by the county governments, because the national government has more headroom in terms of its budgeting. And the most important principle being, it is them who draw up these estimates. It is the National Treasury that comes up with these estimates, and you will remember that during that particular process, county governments have absolutely no role. So it is for them to make sure that if they project revenues and their shortfalls, that burden cannot be borne by county governments. And I believe, having agreed and set those three principles, it is going to be very easy going forward, Honorable Speaker, for us to agree on this process of division of revenue. Honorable Speaker, there was also a very interesting conversation because sometimes members of the National Assembly feel that we accuse them of not understanding the needs of the county governments and the need for them to serve the people. One of the things we agreed in this mediation was that there are no Kenyans who belong to county governments and Kenyans who belong to the national government, that all Kenyans belong to all these governments, the 47 county governments and the national government, and that in fact, your ordinary Kenyan, the people of Mathare, a voter in Mathare does not care who comes to repair a bridge that has been damaged after a flood. They just want the bridge done. So this back-passing and blame just want work to be done. And it was interesting because that conversation was being had roads. Honorable Speaker, it is an acknowledged fact that there are certain classes of roads that belong to county governments or are the responsibility of county governments. And this tussle between the National Assembly and the county governments does not help anyone. Honorable Speaker, you live in Nairobi, and you all the time remind me that your children voted for me. They are complaining, Honorable Speaker, about the state of the roads in Nairobi. Everybody is complaining about the state of the roads in Nairobi, all across.
Senator Sifuna, I live in Meru, where you are. I live in Meru.
Oh.
My children go to school in Nairobi and live in Nairobi. So,
I'm guided, Honorable.
and all means in the Meru
Honorable
community that I live in Nairobi.
Honorable Speaker, okay, we are very proud as a county because we know we host all the senators, wherever they come from, and complaints have been raised about the state of the roads in all of our areas. Honorable Speaker, in Kilibani, in Hurlingham, you go to Isili, the state of the roads in Pipeline, in other areas of Nairobi is so bad. And every time you bring this question up, the governors are always going to hide behind the dispute of the RMLF. In fact, yesterday, Honorable Chair, we had the opportunity to sit with the chair of the Transport Committee of the Council of Governors, the Honorable Governor for Wajir, Ahmed Abdullahi. And you know, during the mediation, the members of the National Assembly gave us as a Senate an assignment to take a message to the Council of Governors that if it were possible for them to sit down and have a discussion and try to mediate that issue out of the courts, it would be helpful to the common Wananchi. I want to report to the members of this House and the members of the National Assembly need to know that we did take that message to the chairperson of the Transport Committee of the Council of Governors. But he was very skeptical, I have to say this, because he has said that this is not the first time this question of the RMLF was taken to courts, and the last time there was a conversation to withdraw the matter or to solve it amicably, it didn't go very well. So at least to the members of the National Assembly who sent us, who gave me that assignment to deliver the message, as a messenger, I've done my part, and I've also given you the feedback that we received from the Council of Governors. Honorable Speaker, allow me to also say that in the course of those proceedings, we in the Senate raised very serious objections about the separation of powers between the three arms of government. We want to continue to urge members of Parliament especially to remember that the law-making process and the budget-making process is a constitutional responsibility of Parliament. And we must never appear to cede that responsibility to any other arm of government, and especially not to the executive. Honorable Speaker, you will know that whenever we are handling a matter in this House, even the judiciary itself has taken a position of waiting for the process in this House to conclude before they can intervene. And when a matter is before the judiciary, we in Parliament as well don't touch it because of the sub judice rule in our own standing orders. Honorable Chair, therefore it was quite disheartening to hear pronouncements being made in the course of the mediation by members of the executive about this mediation and the figures that were viable or not viable. I want members of Parliament to remember that we swore an oath to defend the Constitution, and it is the Constitution that gives us, as Parliament, power to make legislation and power to also make the budget of this country. So that, Honorable Speaker, we should not essentially be one with the executive. In fact, sometimes I feel terrible for the leadership of the executive because they are supposed to get ideas from Parliament and to be guided as well. But if we are a house that only waits for the president to say, we go left and we go left, we go right and we go right. If today he says this house is bad, we all clap and say it's bad. If he says we are now good boys, we all stand up and clap. It's not supposed to be like that. We are doing a disservice to the head of state. And I want to encourage him. I think now he knows. I think now the head of state, Honorable Speaker.
I cannot see an intervention on a point of order. Proceed, Senator Sifuna, I can't see.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, the point that I was making was that the head of state now, in this institution of Parliament, should note the voices to listen to. I think he should spend more time with Senator Onyonka. He might be able to guide him more better than some of the voices he's listening to in the House, because they are not telling him the truth. Honorable Speaker, let me conclude by saying that the mediated amount might not be pleasant to the Council of Governors, might not be what this House wanted, because I remember when we were dispatched to this mediation, we were given very clear instructions that we must not accept anything less than the 400 billion that we had passed. We had many objections ourselves, including myself, during debate of this particular bill, but I want to say that the purpose of mediation is not to get your way. The purpose of mediation is to have a conversation with people who hold a different view and to come to some form of middle ground. I want the House to view this as the Senate saving 7 billion shillings for devolution and not losing 13 billion from the 400 billion that we had been told by the National Assembly. So, Honorable Speaker, what we want to say as a committee is that we had opportunity for a robust conversation with our colleagues from the National Assembly. I have also had opportunity to meet some of them in committee. Some of them, like the Honorable DK, they call him DK. I had never interacted with him. I've come to realize that he's not a bad man, he's a good man. And we have learned a lot from each other. But one of the things we also continue to insist.
Who is DK?
Honorable
For record
DK
purposes.
is the Honorable David Kiplagat, Member of Parliament, MP for Soy. Yes, Honorable Speaker, let me just conclude and reiterate something that we said yesterday as well, that we must stick to the constitutional principles even when it comes to matters of public finance in this country. We want transparency, Honorable Speaker. Some of the things that were delaying even the process, we in the Senate were insisting on some transparency. For instance, we were asking if the finance bill of 2024 was supposed to raise an additional 380 billion, we need to be shown the programs for which this money had been planned, so that we see if we have lost the entire 380, which programs were there for devolution that we can remove. There was also this claim that the national government was reducing its budget or its allocation by 320 billion. We need to be shown those figures so that we are clear and nobody is playing their cards under the table. If everything is put on the table, it is very easy for us to agree. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, with those many remarks, I want to thank the House again for giving me the opportunity to be a member of the Mediation Committee and hope that in future we will be able to grow the path of devolution year on year. With those many remarks, I second Honorable Chair.
Honorable Senators, I propose the question that the Senate adopts the report of the Mediation Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bills number 38 of 2024, laid on the table of the Senate on Tuesday, 26th November 2024, and further that pursuant to Article 113, subsection 2 of the Constitution, and standing under 167(3) of the Senate, approves the mediated version of the bill. Honorable Senators, before I open the floor to the members to contribute, I want to acknowledge the visiting delegation from the County Assembly of Kisumu. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this morning of a delegation from the County Assembly of Kisumu, comprising members of the Committee on Procedure and Rules and its Secretariat. The delegation is undertaking benchmarking visit in the Senate. I request each member of the delegation to stand when called out so that they may be acknowledged in the Senate tradition. Number one, Honorable Gald Olima, who is the Vice Chairperson of the committee. Honorable Kennedy Ajwang, member. Ms. Annabel Wabuge, Senior Clerk Assistant. Mr. Roger Zwagude, Clerk Assistant. Mr. Fanuel Okonde, Answered Reporter. And Mr. William Oganda, Sergeant at Arms. Honorable Senators, in our usual tradition of receiving and welcoming visitors to Parliament, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and on behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, wish them a fruitful visit. Yes, Senator Beatrice Ogora. Welcome the visitors in less than 1 minute. They are your neighbors. You come from Omabi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Kisumu is not only, I'm not only a neighbor of Kisumu, but at some point I've been an acting senator of Kisumu over a long period. But Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to welcome the County Assembly of Kisumu. Honorable Speaker, only yesterday we were in Kisumu welcoming His Excellency the President, who graced a conference that was outstanding. And as usual, Kisumu Dala never disappoints. And we were there in our brightest colors, just as today. And as an ODM party, we really never disappoint when we believe in something. To the County Assembly members, we welcome you as a Senate. You actually performed the primary oversight of our county governments, and we believe we continue to work together with you as a Senate. Feel welcome. And on behalf of Senator Ojenda, welcome to the Senate of the Republic of Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I want to give this chance to the majority leader, who is also a neighbor to Kisumu County, to welcome the visitors and also to make his contribution on this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't know why Senator Cherargei is complaining, and the only time he goes to Kisumu is when he is arrested and is being taken to the police station. Like me, Mr. Speaker, who is in Kisumu every week. Mr. Speaker, I want to welcome our good colleagues from Kisumu County Assembly, our good neighbors. Mr. Speaker, I would have taken offense if you had not allowed me this opportunity. You know, nowadays, in these days of memes, one of the famous memes on TikTok is a young man who is in a public van, and he keeps on asking the driver, "Tumefika Kericho?" And I'm told that they can easily tell the people of Kisumu when they get to Kericho because of many other things, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I celebrate what the County Assembly is doing. This House, Mr. Speaker, the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, should never tire of training and capacity building all our 47 county assemblies to bring them to the stature, Mr. Speaker, and the capacity of the Senate, because that is our constitutional duty, Mr. Speaker, and we cannot pass on that responsibility to any other house, including the National Assembly. My view, Mr. Speaker, is that their perception and understanding of devolution and our devolved institutions, Mr. Speaker, is a bit skewed. And therefore, I take pride as a member of this House each time we have a visiting delegation from our county assemblies of various committees, leadership of those houses, Mr. Speaker, when they come here to learn, Mr. Speaker. And I know that during their time of interaction, they get to learn, not just as members, but even members of staff that accompany them. They interact from their sergeant at arms with our sergeant at arms, their members of secretariat with our members of secretariat, and members, Mr. Speaker. I wish we could do more. I'm not so much abreast with what happened in our committees, but when I used to serve in committees, Mr. Speaker, occasionally we would have members of county assemblies be allowed actually to sit with us in our committees as we transact business. The counterpart, if it is a committee on health, they'd sit with us in the Committee of Health of the Senate, Mr. Speaker, and interact and get to learn and appreciate how we transact our business. And there are times also that we'd learn for them on some of their better refined procedures than what we have here in the Senate. That is the architecture and the design of our Constitution, that these two institutions relate that way. Mr. Speaker, therefore, with that regard, I celebrate the visiting delegation from Kisumu. Mr. Speaker, I'd be very brief on this topic of the mediated version of the Division of Revenue. First, I want to celebrate the members of the Senate that served in this committee. They gave a very good account of ourselves as a House, Mr. Speaker. I was proud every afternoon or evening when I tuned into the TV and I watched the arguments and counter-arguments from both sides of the mediation committee, Mr. Speaker. But I particularly felt proud as a senator because of the good job that the team that we sent did. Mr. Speaker, I know we would have wished for more resources. Point, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that the Constitution did us in with that particular regard. If you read Article 217 of our Constitution on division of revenue, once every 5 years, and I think this exercise we shall be undertaking next year, Mr. Speaker, a very interesting experience which I want Senator Sifuna to fully participate when the time comes, because it's one of the key eye-openers for you as a senator when you participate in this exercise. We come up with the basis upon which resources are shared among us counties. Because the Constitution understood and knew that it is the Senate of the Republic of Kenya that is the primary defender of devolution, they gave us enormous power with regards to deciding this basis. So properly guided and guarded are we on this provision that once we have passed a resolution, it is the only clause or the only report that once it leaves this House, If the National Assembly wants to overturn it, they need to raise 2/3, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, for the 3 or 4 occasions that we've had the occasion to pass the revenue formula, Mr. Speaker, National Assembly, though they disagree with us, they've never had occasion to question us, because the Constitution appreciated that as a Senate, that is our forte, and it is upon us to determine. And once we have agreed on the basis upon which counties share these resources, Mr. Speaker, the National Assembly takes a nod. And if they disagree with us, then they have to raise 2/3 of the House. Something that only, they put us on the same pedestal like a constitutional requirement, or like the impeachment of a president or a deputy, or the overturning of a presidential memorandum, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate that. But when you move to Article 218, that is where I complain, and is the basis of my complaint. I wish that on this matter of division of revenue and the determination of resources between Senate and National Assembly, we had retained similar powers, as such that once we consider division of revenue, Mr. Speaker, because we are reasonable people, it's not that we are going to sit and say, give 800 billion to counties, yet we are aware, Mr. Speaker, of our financial position. We would have been moderate in our consideration, Mr. Speaker. I wish we had similar powers as what has been provided in Article 217, Mr. Speaker, as such that upon the determination by the Senate of how much is due to the counties, then National Assembly will need 2/3 to overturn it. But here we are. Article 218 expects that Parliament shall make the decision. Parliament means both houses. And therefore, as much as many of our colleagues, because I've followed the conversation with comments being made by some of our colleagues on our social media platforms, Mr. Speaker, that our colleagues, how could you agree to this or the other? It's not upon them alone to agree. It's a duty of Parliament. Both houses must come to a conclusion. Sometimes it's not courage to bang yourself, Mr. Speaker, against the wall. It's not an act of courage. You're actually hurting yourself. I pointed out to this House 2 weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, that I was beginning to receive SMSs from governors that know me, that wanted to ask, and the question they kept on prodding is that, Majority Leader, are you likely to conclude on division of revenue before you proceed on recess? And when you ask them why, they say, we want to do at least a supplementary budget so that we have a rough idea. Can you imagine, Mr. Speaker, many of our county assemblies are about to break for recess, and they have no basis upon which to do their supplementary budget because we haven't done CARA for them to know what is their share of the national cake, Mr. Speaker. And it would have been completely unfair of us if we would have asked Senator Sifuna, and he knows how to stick to his guns, Mr. Speaker. In fact, he loves opposing more than supporting things, Mr. Speaker. We would have asked them that go there and just insist on 400 and don't listen to anything else. But are we helping our counties, Mr. Speaker? It is our wish that perhaps if it was possible, we'd raise these figures, Mr. Speaker. But remember, the constitutional edict is that this is a determination of Parliament, not Senate alone. Both houses must agree, Mr. Speaker. And I want to appreciate that because of that provision of the Constitution, our colleagues have done well. 387.425, Mr. Speaker, together with 8 billion from equalization fund, Mr. Speaker, yet we are still actually going to do further, I think, before we break on recess, the conditional allocation, Mr. Speaker. We shall still achieve on or about the intention that we set out when we began this year's division of revenue bill. Mr. Speaker, you know, I take great comfort in the fact that I know that as a House, we put our best case forward, but we are also intelligent enough to listen to what our colleagues from the National Assembly are telling us and the realities that we have to live with. The truth of the matter, Mr. Speaker, is that our economy isn't doing so well. We are under a debt distress situation where 70% of the resources that we are collecting, Mr. Speaker, unfortunately, do not leave Harambee Avenue. They are collected by KRA, and CBK pays them out in debt either to foreign institutions or even local institutions that we owe these resources, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, we must learn to make live, Mr. Speaker, with the little that we have. I am particularly, Mr. Speaker, impressed because when the President gave the State of the Nation address last week on Thursday, he gave another assurance. And I don't know why Senator Sifuna is saying the President sometimes draws the wrong advice from this House. he needs to read the BPS report of the Budget and Finance Committee of this financial year. One of the things that we had challenged the executive to do is that apart from just raising taxes, is that they need actually to digitize revenue collections at KRA so that they realize more revenue. Because there's still, I am certain, Mr. Speaker, that if we were to seal revenue leakages that exist in this country, perhaps we'll raise far more than what we are trying to raise with this year's financial bill. That was a finding of this Senate, Mr. Speaker, and I am impressed that the President gave a commitment to both houses of Parliament when he addressed us last week, that they are in the final stages of digitizing our revenue collection mechanism and to reduce on wastage, Mr. Speaker, so that we have more money to share with our counties and development can be realized, Mr. Speaker. Therefore, I want to celebrate and appreciate the good work that our committee has done. I see they are proposing for us 387.425. Let us make this decision so that as we walk to our villages over the Christmas holidays, Mr. Speaker, we can look at our governors straight in the face and ask them to give a good account of the resources that we have devolved to the devolved units, Mr. Speaker. Otherwise, as it is today, you're actually shy on taking on the county government's officials and the governor, because they'd quickly come and speak soon after you and say, but you guys, you know, you have not even told us the basis of how much we are likely to receive this financial year. After the passage of this bill, and I want to request, Mr. Speaker, if possible, if our colleagues can speak to this mediated version of the bill today, so that we conclude on it, Mr. Speaker, and we quickly embark on Kara, so that by next week, Mr. Speaker, we can be done with this business, Mr. Speaker. We can retreat actually to the villages, you know, with our chest held high, knowing that now we have done our duty, our national duty, Mr. Speaker, and citizens can expect services from us. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I celebrate their industry. I don't want to speak long on many of the things that we addressed. Remember, this is a mediated version. Mr. Speaker, we had said what we need to say about what we expect of our county governments. I would therefore wish to end my contribution at that particular point, Mr. Speaker, and celebrate the colleagues that took time. I urge colleagues that let us quickly dispense off with this matter, appreciate the work that our colleagues have put in, and move on to other things. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Asante sana mstahiki Spika kwa kunipa hii nafasi. Kwanza ningetaka kushukuru kamati iliyokaa chini na kuhakikisha kwamba wamefanikisha maelewano kati ya fedha ambazo zinaenda katika kaunti. Mstahiki Spika, nianze kusema ya kwamba kazi inayofanywa na maseneta ni muhimu. Shinda ambazo wanapitia kuhakikisha kwamba pesa ambazo zinaenda gatuzi zetu zimefika ni kazi ngumu. Ni kazi msaragambo, ni kazi ambayo inahitaji maseneta kumakinika na kutetea gatuzi zetu. Lakini cha ajabu ni kwamba hizi fedha zinapofika katika kaunti zetu, mangavana wengi wanajifanya kama ni miungu, kwamba hawezi ulizwa maswali. Kama seneti tumekuwa sisi ni tingatinga, kazi yetu ni kuchukuliwa kumbomoa milima. Tunapomaliza kutengeneza barabara na fedha kufika katika gatuzi zetu, inasemekana kwamba tutaharibu barabara, lazima tuwekelewe kwa lori. Mstahiki Spika, ile pesa tumeng'ang'ana leo na kuhakikisha kwamba imepita. Ningeuliza ya kwamba wale mangavana ambao wanatumia hizi pesa wazitumie kwa njia ya haki kuhakikisha kwamba kuna maendeleo mashinani. Mstahiki Spika, na nitasema niambie kwamba Mswahili usema ukitaka kujua chochoro kula nauli. Sisi kama seneti tumemakinika na tuhakikisha kwamba kuanzia mwaka ujao pia tutaendelea kuhakikisha kwamba tunafuatilia fedha zetu zinaenda wapi. Ukiangalia katika mahospitali zetu, katika gatuzi zetu, utapata kwamba watu wetu bado wanahangaika kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa madawa na ukosefu wa huduma muhimu ambazo zinafaa kwenda kwa zile hospitali. Utasikia gavana akisema kwamba nang'ang'ana na barabara, unajua. Yes. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika. Mstahiki Spika, mimi kama mwenyekiti wa kamati ya ukulima uvuvi na uchumi samawati. Ni vizuri niseme ya kwamba miradi mingi ambayo inafanyika katika gatuzi zetu ni kama gavana wengi wamesahau kwamba kuna ukulima, kuna uvuvi. Katika nyanja ya uchumi samawati, shinda iliyoko pale ni kwamba ukiangalia katika bajeti ambazo zinatengenezwa, bajeti ambazo zinapelekwa katika mbunge zetu za county, ni kwamba huwezi pata hata moja ambayo inawekwa pesa ya kutosha kwenda katika uchumi samawati. Tumetembea sehemu mbalimbali ambao uvuvi unafanyika, na cha kushangaza ni kwamba wavuvi bado wanahangaika na bado kuna fedha ambazo zinafaa kwenda katika kusaidia wale wavuvi. Mstahiki Spika, mkulima ni mtu wa maana, na nitarejea kusema kwamba kama kuna mtu anahitajika katika maisha ya kila siku, moja ni mkulima. Tunahitaji mkulima asubuhi wakati tunatafuta staftai, chakula ya mchana na hata jioni, mara 4 kwa siku. Lakini wakulima wengi nchini tutapata kwamba wameachiliwa, na tunajua ya kwamba kilimo imegatuliwa. Mstahiki Spika, kwa miaka yangu ya awali hapo nimekuwa mwakilishi wandi katika gatuzi la Kirinyaga, na nikakuwa kiongozi wa wengi katika mbunge la Kirinyaga. Gavana wangu ni yule gavana aliyopo leo, na tangu leo utapata ya kwamba zile fedha ambazo zimewekwa hususan kwenda katika wandi, kwa sababu wandi ndio kisehemu kidogo sana cha ugatuzi, kwamba unapata kwamba wambunge katika Kirinyaga bado wanang'ang'ania miradi ambayo wamepeana kupitia kwa mangavana kuweza kutekelezwa. Unapata kwamba wanapoongea wanakuwa ni maadui wa gavana. Ile njia kuhakikisha kwamba fedha ambazo zimewafikia mangavana imefika katika kona zote la gatuzi yoyote katika Kenya, katika magatuzi yote 47, Mstahiki Spika, ni kuhakikisha kwamba miradi ambayo imepeanwa na mawakilishi wandi wote inatekelezwa katika zile wandi ambayo wanasimamia. Na hiyo si lazima ifanyike kwamba, kwa sababu uongozi si mapenzi. Sio lazima gavana awe kwamba anasikizana na mwakilishi wandi. Sio lazima gavana awe anasikilizana na seneta, kwa sababu katika siasa hata kama mpendani lazima huduma ifikie mwananchi, kwa sababu kukosana katika kazi si neno, kwa sababu mwishowe tunafaa kufanya kazi, sio harusi. Mstahiki Spika, jana katika kamati ya CIPIC, najua kwamba CIPIC ilikuwa na kikao ambao iliita gavana wangu wa kutoka gatuzi la Kirinyaga. Jambo ambalo lilikuwa inaulizwa ni maswali kuhusu iliyokuwa Kiriwasco ambayo ilikuwa inahusika na maji. Mpaka saa hii fedha ambayo inakusanywa na Kiriwasco haijapita vilivyo katika bunge la county ili iweze kugawiwa majukumu kulingana na sheria ambayo inahusiana na ununuzi wa bidhaa. Unapata ya kwamba bado kuna mashimo mengi ambao pesa zinaokotwa katika county zinapotelea. Na kwa hivyo mangavana wafai kila siku ni kulialia kila siku ati pesa haitoshi, haifiki. Pia tunataka kuona ile pesa wanaokota inaokotwa kwa njia inayofaa na kuwa una uaminifu na inafikia malengo ambayo inafaa kufikia. Nikimalizia, Mstahiki Spika, ni kwamba saa hii, Mstahiki Spika, ukienda eneo la Mwea ambao ni eneo kubwa sana ambao inakuzwa mpunga katika eneo la Kirinyaga, ni kwamba wakulima wengi wanahangaika, kwa sababu ingawa kwamba wamezalisha, ingawa kwamba kutakuwa na mbolea ya ruzuku, ingawa kwamba kumekuwa na pembejeo ambazo zimefikishwa na kufanya wakulima ongeze mazao, bado kuna tatizo kubwa sana kwa miundo msingi ya kutoa mazao yao kutoka mashambani kufikisha kwa magara. Mstahiki Spika, hata tukizalisha na bado tunapata kwamba wakulima wanapoteza mazao mengi sana kuozea shambani. Gharama ya kutoa gunia moja mpunga kutoka mashambani kupeleka katika magara ya NCPB na katika magara ya vyama vya ushirika katika eneo la Mwea, utapata ya kwamba kuna shinda kubwa ina wagharimu wakulima 1200 katika kila gunia. Mstahiki Spika, kama mkulima atapoteza 1200 kwa sababu ya miundo msingi ambayo ingetengenezwa na gatuzi la Kirinyaga, ni kusema kwamba ile faida yote ilikuwa inapatikana kwa sababu ya kupata mbolea ruzuku na pembejeo za bei ya rais zinapotea. Na kwa hivyo ndo ningemwambia gavana wangu kwamba mugala muue na haki yake mpe. Tuhakikisha kwamba huduma za barabara, miundo msingi imeboreshwa ili wakulima waweze kufaidika. Mstahiki Spika, si hayo tu ambayo nilikuwa nataka kusema siku ya leo. Najua ya kwamba kamati nyingi zimekuwa na matatizo kubwa wakati tunawaita mangavana hapa kuja kujibu maswali. Na unajua Mswahili husema mrina haogopi nyuki. Kama unataka asali lazima utafuata mzinga na kuenda kuzoa asali, uwe unaumwa na nyuki ama uumwi na nyuki. Unapoomba kiti ya gavana lazima uwe tayari kukaa chini na wale ambao wanaangalia kama kazi inafanyika katika kaduzi. Lazima uwe tayari kukaa chini na kujibu maswali kwa wale wakilishi wadi ambao wamechaguliwa. Lazima kuwe na heshima kuhakikisha kwamba kila jambo ambalo unafanya unawajibika. Na nitakuwa nikalili wa akili kama sitasema ya kwamba kumekuwa na madharau si hamba kutoka kwa magavana, kwa wakilishi wadi na maseneta ambao waliochaguliwa. Na ni vizuri tuseme ya kwamba itafika siku ambao tunafaa kuwa na kikao. Kazi yetu sio kubeba mzigo mkubwa. Na wakati tunauliza maswali wanatuambia mzigo uko kichwani, kwa pani jasho la tutokeani. Lazima wajibike kwa kujibu maswali na kufanya kazi ambayo wamepewa kufanya, na wasiwe tu kazi yao ni kutupatia kazi ya kutafutia pesa lakini wataki kujibu maswali. Asante sana Mstahiki Spika.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you once more for giving me the opportunity to contribute to the report of the Mediation Committee on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill 2024. Honorable Speaker, just yesterday when the President visited Kisumu and when the CS Treasury was called to make a speech, I remember the CS made a very outstanding statement on devolution. And the statement was, he was reflecting on a commitment that the President and himself shared on the support to county governments. And Honorable Speaker, I expected that we would maintain the 400 billion that we initially agreed on to be given to the counties, and to me, that would have been an outright support to devolution and outright support to county governments. By accepting to reduce to 387 or less, Honorable Speaker, I do not think this is the commitment that the head of state was making with the CS Treasury on the support of county governments. However, Honorable Speaker, I empathize and I feel with the reasons that the committee gave as they were moving this and as the seconded this mediated report. But also to say from the onset, Honorable Speaker, that negotiations may not be a preserve of PhD holders, as was stated by Senator Sifuna when he was seconding this, Honorable Speaker. Negotiations are just deliberations which lead to a give and take, but I still feel, Honorable Speaker, that it would not be fair to the county governments that we go by the report and the figures that have been given here. Honorable Speaker, the counties as they are have no other avenue of developing their areas other than the on-source revenue that they get and the equitable share as is given, Honorable Speaker. We know that the PPs have not been working for the county governments. The national governments have policies that put them in a good state for the national government to negotiate with development partners, which most of the county governments do not benefit from. County governments from the onset have tried so much to engage development partners through their investment conferences, Honorable Speaker, but because of the policies that we have, they have not achieved much. Honorable Speaker, we all know that even functions as they were being unbundled to the county governments, these functions were never costed. Arbitrary figures have been put on these functions For example, if you take health, Honorable Speaker, the function of health is so expansive, and yet it was devolved to the counties without a scientific costing that was done to the services that are offered in health. And so the counties continue to suffer with the amounts that they have. And Honorable Speaker, it is also common sense that where you have a bigger brother like the national government, as we have in the dispensation that we are in, that we have two levels of government, and it was well stated that it is the duty of national government to capacity build the county governments to come to the par on the expectations of the public. I felt, and I continue to feel, Honorable Speaker, that the shortfall that we have should have been borne by the national government, and we should have maintained our original figure of 400 billion, Honorable Speaker.
On the senators, can you kindly maintain?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for saving me and for ensuring that the Senator of Nandi is seated and quiet, listening to my presentation. Anyway, Honorable Speaker, as I said, I feel, Honorable Speaker, that we should have maintained the 400 billion. I do not see a reason why this shortfall should not have been borne by the national government. Because, Honorable Speaker, if we have to go by less figures, what then happens to the priority projects that the counties are supposed to undertake? And some of them were quantified. The county aggregations that require 50-50 matching with the national government, that was placed at 11 billion, Honorable Speaker. We have the enhanced contribution by NSSF that has 3 billion. We have the community health promoters, Honorable Speaker, that is so key to the achievement of universal health care. That also has a 50-50 matching with the national government. On our side being 3.2 billion. We have in health too, we have the doctors' collective bargaining agreement, which comes to around 5.8 billion. Honorable Speaker, you know that the functions that were given to the county governments are core to the heart of our people. Not limited to health, but we have water, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, in my county, now there are rains. We have water. Despite the fact that we can see the lake just by us, our people are not able to have access to water, especially during drought. In my county, Honorable Speaker, and even in my sub-county, which is Ndewa, our people suffer so much for lack of access to water. The issue of water is a problem. Even though certain investments have been made on the drilling of boreholes and the provision of the water points, but reticulation to the people remains a challenge in my county. And I believe in other counties, Honorable Speaker. If you go to our municipalities, you often hear that there's no water in my headquarters and in other headquarters. And this is a function that the county governments are supposed to do. The municipalities, Honorable Speaker, have old infrastructure that was laid years ago. And this infrastructure breaks down often. The counties are not able then to work towards the universal expected standards of having our people access water. Honorable Speaker, another key sector that was devolved to counties is agriculture. Honorable Speaker, in agriculture we have fisheries for some of us coming from the lake, which is very important to us. And we have agriculture itself, the farming part of it. Honorable Speaker, our farmers do not even access extension officers. Our farmers are not able to access these officers when they need it, Honorable Speaker, from these departments. And Honorable Speaker, I believe this is because of the inadequate funding that is given to these sectors. Honorable Speaker, I expect a situation where if a farm be able to access, our farmers still keep cattle, our farmers still keep dairy cattle, and they often require services from the veterinary department. But without adequate funding, Honorable Speaker, our people turn to pets. Honorable Speaker, in my country still and in other countries, we are looking to achieving a percentage of tree coverage. In my country, there were 2 outstanding forests, one called Kodera Forest, another called Ruma that is next to my village. Honorable Speaker, the deforestation that has taken place in this forest is so massive, and I was looking forward to some adequate funding so that my county government would embark on a forestation program to bring my country to the expected tree cover national. Honorable Speaker, I am not very comfortable with the reduced figures, and I feel as a Senate, we should have maintained our figures. And so, Honorable Speaker, as I step aside, I want it to be categorical that I do not support this, this version of the mediated report. The Senate must continuously stand with the county governments. The Senate must continuously stand with the figures that were given initially in the report here. And Honorable Speaker, it is also worth noticing that as this report is moved, we do not have now the aggression that the committee have when they initially presented their report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me this opportunity to contribute this. I'll be short, I'll be very brief, Mr. Speaker, because at 11:30 I'll be taking the oath of office as a commissioner. I'm quite amused about that. I'm quite happy. Mr. Speaker, sir, I sat in the mediation committee, and indeed, we as the senators were quite firm that the amount that we had suggested of 400 plus would remain untouched. We pushed, Mr. Speaker, we listened to our counterparts, and I want to agree with the colleague Senator Beatrice that indeed we had insisted we need and we must be the 400. However, Mr. Speaker, sir, at times it takes a bit of courage to be able to give in, and especially aware of the situation that the country is in. We realized that there are no people who are served by the national or the county government, and we did realize that the situation and the physical space that the country is moving around, then in the spirit of give and take, we said, Mr. Speaker, we must, to ensure that the counties do not come to a halt, we must come to an agreement. Mr. Speaker, sir, in every mediation, it is the spirit of give and take that governs people. The emotional intelligence that's required for us to be able to come to a conclusion, because looking at the fact that we will be shortly moving for recess, and the county government will also be doing the same, we asked ourselves very hard questions. And that is why, Mr. Speaker, we said, yes, promoting devolution, upholding devolution, ensure figure, Mr. Speaker, sir, with heavy heart that we agreed to the relatively reduced figure of 387.4. Mr. Speaker, sir, having said that, it is also very, very important that we also tell our colleagues, the governors, that yes, austerity measures as being practiced by the national government. The fact that the national government had reduced its budget by over 380-something billions. And I like what Senator Sifuna said, that we needed to see the breakdown of these figures. But as we look down at those figures, as we interrogate those figures, Mr. Speaker, let our counties not come to a halt. And I remember the majority leader has just said he received several calls. I did also receive such a call from my governor telling us, yes, our county is in dire need and something must be done. Mr. Speaker, sir, we made that decision to bridge the gap so that we do not cripple the activities of the county governments. This, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we sat with the members of the National Assembly, as we try to push and harden on our position, that we as the promoters and protectors of devolution, that we are not going to take any cut. It was not lost to us that even we here in the Senate, our committees, the other drivers of the Senate business have also had to face a budget cut because that is the reality and the situation as it is. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I urge my colleagues to support the mediated fashion, I would want to tell the mayors it is with heavy hearts that we in the mediation committee did accept this position, but we know moving forward, Mr. Speaker, and we agreed, we need to unbundle all the functions and make sure that we inject the budget that goes with it. It is in this spirit, Mr. Speaker, sir, in the spirit of give and take, in the spirit of knowing that we are one nation, serving one people, that we must be prepared at times to take compromising positions where we accommodate our people, because service delivery to any part of Kenya, to any Kenyan, regardless of they're being served by the national or the county government, is success for Kenyans. And this, Mr. Speaker, sir, is what informed our accepting this mediated fashion. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, as I sit down, I want to urge my forward services and deliver that they require. Mr. Speaker, sir, yes, I agree with my colleague that the county government do not have the frameworks that the national government do enjoy of having to, or entering into PPPs. But this, Mr. Speaker, sir, we must also have a paradigm shift in the way we look at things. Some of our counties, Mr. Speaker, especially in the agricultural sector, in water reticulation, the unit is small that it cannot achieve economies of scale, and therefore municipal county government, so that they can be able to realize some of the mega projects that have been conceptualized. Mr. Speaker, as I say this, I remember the mega dams that were promised in Nyeri County. For the last 60 years, we've been waiting. But the kind of budgetary allocation that they require, the county government will never, in its resources, be able to realize that. And that opens the door for us to negotiate with the national government, with the neighboring counties, so that as we enter into we can be able to achieve economies of scale by making sure that we have numbers that are enough. Mr. Speaker, my colleague also alluded to the fact that water reticulation is a major non-resource water. That is water that is lost through pipe bustage or water that's siphoned out. We lose, at some counties, lose up to 70%. Services closer to the people. This can only be done through collaboration of the national government and the county governments and formation of regional blocks, so that economies of scale and the numbers can be able to attract investors who can come and invest in these counties. As I sit down, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the mediation committee, both the senators and the members of the National Assembly, for their being selfless in their spirit of giving and taking to ensure that we come up with this mediated fashion, which I urge my colleagues to adopt moving forward. Is we know that source revenue in the county government, and ensuring that we seal the leakages, we seal the loopholes, and most importantly, improve governance and accountability and transparency, so that the services are delivered promptly to our people. Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Senator Karungu Thangwa.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So that from the onset, I can say that I don't agree with this report. Because, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, this House approved 400 billion to go to the counties. I don't know whether I'm audible, Mr. Speaker, or maybe I can move closer to you.
We can, Thangwa, it's okay, but you are very audible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity and the opportunity to say that I do not support this mediation report because, Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, this House approved 400 billion to go to the counties, but the National Assembly, which is never mandated to take care of the interest of the counties, reduced that amount by 20 billion. Mr. Speaker, the committee sat, the mediation committee, and they all agreed on 387 billion. That is cutting short 13 billion to the counties, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to give my reasons, borrowing heavily from the presidential State of the Nation speech at the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, the President said on paragraph 18, Mr. Speaker, if I can read for you, the President said tax revenues have grown by 11.5% in the year to June 2024, reflecting the success of our tax-based expansion measures. The economy continues to grow steadily, recording a 5.6% growth rate in 2023, among the highest globally. We project 5% growth this year and 5.6% in 2025. Mr. Speaker, if the tax revenues have grown by 11.5%, why cut the amount of money that is supposed to go to the counties by 13 billion, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, if you read the report by this good committee, the Mediation Committee Consideration of the Division of Revenue, they said that the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024 was an unprecedented event and has implications on government finances. This occasioned a shortfall in projected revenue collection of 346 billion. Mr. Speaker, the President is saying one thing, that there is tax revenue growth by 11.5%, yet the Mediation Committee is saying there was a shortfall, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sometimes when you're accused of telling lies, it gives us, a hard time knowing who to believe and what to accept, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that shortfall the committee is implying happened has been negated by the President himself. So my question is, why do we reduce the amount that goes to the counties, Mr. Speaker? And very well, Mr. Speaker, Article 96 of the Constitution is for us to take care of the interests of our counties, both the government and the people. So, Mr. Speaker, I do not understand why the Mediation Committee or why the senators whom we sent to that committee could agree to any reduction. Actually, we could have asked for more, Mr. Speaker. Because why, Mr. Speaker? Paragraph 29 of the President's speech, Mr. Speaker. It says, counties have struggled with shortages of medicine, equipment and staff, hindering service delivery and leaving countless Kenyans with suboptimal access to health care. The President himself, Mr. Speaker, is aware that the counties are struggling from his speech in Parliament. Yet the committee, either they are not in line with what the President is trying to achieve or they're coming up with their own figures, Mr. Speaker. The President goes on by saying, Mr. Speaker, on that paragraph 29, it would have been easy for me to step back and leave this responsibility to counties alone. But that would have been a disservice to Kenyans and a betrayal of our Constitution. Mr. Speaker, the President is aware that there is shortage and he cannot sit back and leave the responsibility to the counties alone. Mr. Speaker, then why would a committee of this House reduce the budget or the money that goes to the counties, yet it has been made aware that there is struggles, there's shortages, there's all that by the President himself in the counties, Mr. Speaker. So that's why I would not at any moment at any moment support this.
Senator Mundingi, what's your point of order?
Fahamisha rafiki wangu Senator wa Kiambu, Mr. Karungu Athang'wa, mambo ya kutanja rais wa Kenya. Shinda ya mediation haikuwa na rais wa Kenya. Mediation ilikuwa na maseneta wale tulichagua hapa, na wale wa mediation wengine walikuwa pale ni watu wa mbunge ambaye wataki kusikia kaunti zetu njia ukatusi wakipata era inafaa. Kwa hivyo ningetaka kukosoa rafiki wangu Karungu Athang'wa, hakuna pahali rais alihusisha kwa sababu amepeana demokrasia. Mwende mkae chini ndio devolution iweze kupata kazi, iweze kupata hela ile inafaa bilioni 400. Kwa hivyo ningependa kumwambia angekosoa ile kamati yetu na parliament ambaye haitaki devolution iendelee kazi. Asante bwana Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, maybe it is my English that the senator is not understanding what I'm trying to say, but I can simplify for him to understand. What I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that the president is aware and he knows the counties are struggling. The president wants to help the counties. But the committee that has been mandated, Mr. Speaker, I wish you would protect me. I wish you would protect me, Mr.
Bwana
Speaker.
Mazayo, nini hoja yako ya nidhamu?
Bwana Spika, pengine ndugu yangu aliye hivi sasa anatoa maoni yake kwenye ile ripoti yetu ya mediation committee, amesema ya kwamba pengine ni kizungu chake, kimombo chake ni kwamba pengine yule ndugu yetu hakielewi. Nataka kumuuliza, je, ni haki kusema kitendo in a form of innuendo, jambo ambalo innuendo ni kwamba pengine hulisemi kiwazi. Nataka kujua, je, akisema hivyo Mundigi mwenyewe hujiita daktari hapa, yeye akiwa kama daktari anajua kimombo sana, na hata nishamsikia mimi akiongea kimombo. Je, ni haki kwa ndugu yangu ambaye hivi sasa chairman wangu wa barabara anaweza kusema ya kwamba Mundigi ana upungufu wa kujua kizungu ama kimombo? Asante Bwana Speaker.
Senator Athang'wa, unaweza kurekebisha matamshi yako. Ulikuwa unamaanisha Senator Mundigi hafahamu lugha ya kizungu.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't mean to say that he does not understand English. Maybe I was speaking too fast for him to comprehend. And that's why I decided to slow down and explain to him or to the House that the President is aware that the counties are struggling, Mr. Speaker. And because they are struggling, you would expect a House that is mandated to come up with this law, the DORA Act, Mr. Speaker, the committee that understands that we need to have service delivery at the counties, instead of reducing these amounts, we should actually increase this amount, Mr. Speaker. I was also trying to say that the President has acknowledged that the tax base has increased by 11.5%. So there is more money within the national government. So then why reduce the monies that goes to the counties? That is my question, and that's why I was trying to compare the two, what the President believes and what this House believes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know these monies, when they get to the counties, there's a lot of embezzlement, there's a lot of corruption, and as we send monies to the counties, we should also call upon the governors to use these resources the way it's supposed to be used, Mr. Speaker, to fight corruption and to stop thievery or eating county monies, Mr. Speaker. And the other day I saw the governor says that they are going to shut down counties if we do not agree. And you know, Mr. Speaker, you do not threaten a person who is out there trying to assist the counties to get what they're supposed to get. So when you say, if you do not agree very fast, we are going to shut down counties, are you trying to tell us? And I think that's why these members of this committee agreed to reduce to the reduction of the 13 billion, Mr. Speaker, because now the county governors, they are threatening they are going to shut down, and probably this committee decided, okay, instead of you shutting down, let me give you less money, Mr. Speaker. I would want the governors, with the same gusto that they were going to, the threats are going to shut down the counties, Mr. Speaker, they should come out and say how they are using and misusing the county resources, Mr. Speaker. Because monies have been sent to the counties, and when they have been sent to the counties, Mr. Speaker, you realize that the health workers are not paid. For example, the county of Kiambu, my great county, Mr. Speaker, the health workers have not been paid their salaries for the last 4 months, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Kiambu employees are not attending the Kikoska Games this year, something they have done every year. And you know that's the only opportunity you meet other people from other counties for cohesion and agreement and understanding of each other, Mr. Speaker. And they are not going to attend because, one, they say there is no money. But if you ask them, the money that you have had, how did you use that money? Didn't you budget for this? And it was budgeted for, Mr. Speaker. So you should not again blame the national government that there is late disbursement, yet you have your own source of revenue, Mr. Speaker. And this is a call to all governors, Mr. Speaker, that they should work on their own source of revenue. And working on own source of revenue does not mean increasing the taxes or the levies, Mr. Speaker. It is just broadening the collection of it. And this can only be done through digitization, Mr. Speaker. And I'm comparing the President's speech from my contribution, Mr. Speaker, because if you read paragraph 66 of the President, actually I'm supporting some of his pronouncement, Mr. Speaker. The President said that I am delighted to report on the dramatic improvements we have recorded by automating and digitizing our revenue collection and service delivery through e-citizen, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this should be trickled down to the county governments, and I'm calling on the governors to borrow from the President's speech and digitize their own source revenue collection methods, Mr. Speaker. They should digitize tax collection or levies collection, digitize service delivery, digitize water supplies, Mr. Speaker. And you know counties own water companies in their counties, Mr. Speaker. And since I'm in one of committees that scrutinize these reports, the audit reports about water companies, Mr. Speaker, we have realized counties are losing a lot of water through the non-revenue water, Mr. Speaker, through leakages, stealing of water, no meters, and all that, Mr. Speaker. And if you look at it, like yesterday, we had the governor of Kirinyaga, and his county is losing 56% of all the water supplied to the county government of, to the county of Kirinyaga, Mr. Speaker. 56%. And when you ask them, they say the pipes are old, we don't have meters, the people are stealing water. Mr. Speaker, if we digitize, even have smart meters, Mr. Speaker, this can really help the service delivery if we digitize, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know counties need money, and it is upon this House to scrutinize how the governors are using these monies, Mr. Speaker. The other day, and we saw it yesterday in the news, that the national government, through the Ministry of Water, they are forming a task force to fight rats menace, snail menace, and birds menace in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. Though it might sound funny, this is a huge problem in Mwea, Mr. Speaker. The people of Mwea are suffering because their rice is being eaten by the birds, called quelea birds, the snails, and of course the rats, Mr. Speaker. But when you ask them, and I've talked to the senator of Kirinyaga, and he has given me more information by telling me that one red-billed quelea bird can eat 80 grams of rice every day. If you multiply that by a year, Mr. Speaker, that's about 215 tons of rice. So the Mwea people, if you convert that to money, they lose 32 million Kenya shillings every year, Mr. Speaker. But when you ask the national government or the county government, they are forming a task force. You know, this government of ours, Mr. Speaker, they like meetings. They even form a meeting to discuss whether they should have a meeting, Mr. Speaker. What I'm trying to say is, Mr. Speaker, how to fight this menace in Mwea is to give counties more resources. But again, I've been told here by the Senator of Kirinyaga that the county government of Kirinyaga has never budgeted for this menace, has never put money to try to reduce these red-billed quelea birds that are eating the rice, Mr. Speaker. And when you do a little bit of research, how do you repel or keep away these birds, Mr. Speaker? Is by using some ultrasonic repellers, Mr. Speaker. It is a small gadget that makes some sound or emits some sound waves that the human cannot hear, but the birds will hear, and it will disturb them, and they will run away. And such a gadget, Mr. Speaker, is going for 3,000 Kenya shillings. And the county government cannot see it fit to budget for such a gadget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have known even from our high school, of our primary school times, that we have scarecrows, Mr. Speaker. And I know maybe these birds and these rats, they are used to the scarecrow. But in this time of technology, the county government should at least even give them drones, Mr. Speaker. The drones that are also emitting the predator's sounds so that the birds can feel like a predator is on the way, Mr. Speaker. So what I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, is that we shouldn't reduce the amount of money that goes to the counties, and again now ask the governors to prudently use those resources as per the budget estimates, as per the budgeting processes, and also as per the people's priorities, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know I'm talking about Mwea, but probably this is not the only problem in Mwea or the rice fields, Mr. Speaker. Maybe in Bura, Ahero, North Kano, or even Lower Kuja in Migori, Mr. Speaker, maybe they're also having these problems. And when the government says it's going to form a task force to catch a rat, Mr. Speaker, you ask yourself, don't we have the people who are mandated to deal with these issues instantly? Must you form a task force to go and discuss the rats, or the birds, or the snails, or even how to kill them, Mr. Speaker, yet they already know how? All I'm trying to say is that money should be used well to the intended purposes, and I oppose this report, Mr. Speaker. We need to give counties more money so that we can be able, as a Senate, use our channels and committees to check on how these monies are used at the counties, Mr. Speaker. So I oppose this report. Thank you.
Senator Stuart Mazayo.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, cha kwanza nataka kutoa kongole kwa wale maseneta wetu, hususan katika bunge la Senate, kwa sababu haya yalikuwa ni majadiliano kulingana na vile ambavyo tulikuwa hatujaelewana na ugavi huu wa pesa zinazokwenda katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, tunaona kwamba wale majabali wetu ambao walikuwa katika hii kamati, ukiniruhusu Bwana Spika, kwa heshima naweza kusema ya kwamba wakiongozwa na kiongozi Ali Roba, kufuatiwa na Edwin Sifuna na Recha Julius Murgor na Mohamed Faki na Veronica Maina na Richard Onyonka na ndugu yangu wa Matinga commissioner, vile vile Profesa Ujambo Mungatana na Edi Kishero. Hii ripoti Bwana Spika, na hawa majabali ambao tuliwapeleka ili waweze kujadiliana kuona ya kwamba wamepitisha zile pesa, walifanya bidii walivyoweza. Kulingana na matokeo yale ya kwanza, ripoti yetu sisi tulikuwa tumesema tuweze kupeleka mashinani, serikali zetu za mashinani, kupeleka bilioni 400. Zote 47 waweze kugawanya, na tuone ya kwamba kila kaunti katika Kenya imefaidika na hizi pesa. Lakini kwa sababu ya sintofahamu tofauti katika bunge la kitaifa, wakaona ya kwamba hii pesa irudishwe chini. Lakini hawa majabali wetu ambao tulikuwa tumewachagua hapa waliweza kufanya bidii na hatimaye wakaweza kufikisha kiwango cha bilioni 387, ambapo si kiwango kibaya kulinganishana na vile tunavyoelewa ya kwamba 15% ya sheria inaruhusu. Bwana Spika, nataka kusema ya kwamba kipengele cha katiba cha 96 kinasema ya kwamba kazi ya Senate itakuwa kulinda na kutetea hususan zile pesa ama kitita cha pesa kile kinapelekwa katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Hii ni kazi muhimu sana kwa hili bunge letu la Senate, kuona ya kwamba hakuna mwaka tutaweza kuketi bila kupeleka hizi pesa katika serikali zetu mashinani. Lakini tumeona ya kwamba japokuwa zimepungua, huo ndio wajibu ambao sasa tunataka akili za magavana ziweze kukaa chini na kujua hii pesa ambayo imepunguzwa tutaweza kuifanya namna gani ili iweze pia yale mapato tuliyopata kuweza kuendeleza maendeleo katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, hakuna mtu ambaye anaweza kufaulu kutengeza maendeleo ikiwa hatapata pesa. Na ndio sababu tunasema kwamba kipengele cha 96 ni kipengele muhimu ndani ya hili bunge la Senate. Na mimi nataka kupatia kongole masenators wote kwa kuweza kufanya bidii kuona ya kwamba bilioni 387 zimeweza kupatikana, zimekwenda katika serikali zetu za mashinani ili kuweza kusaidia maendeleo. Kongole ndugu zangu maseneta katika hili bunge. Vile vile nikiwa ninaendelea kukubaliana na hii ripoti ambayo imetengenezwa kwa hali ya taaluma ya juu. Bwana Spika, tunataka kuona hizi pesa zikienda kwa magavana, wao wasijichukulie kama wao ndio tunasema namna gani? Tunasema wao wasijichukulie kama wao ni wakubwa. Wao ni watumishi wa wale waliowapigia kura. Kwa hiyo tunataka utumishi sasa uonekane ama ubainike wazi ya kwamba hizi pesa ambazo tumezipeleka katika serikali zetu za mashinani zinatumika kwa hali inayofaa. Tunajua kuna ufijaji wa pesa kwa njia tofauti, lakini tunawasihi ya kwamba hizi pesa zikitumika vyema, wale watu wetu wa mashinani, wananchi wa mashinani wataweza kufaidika na hizi pesa. Na huo ndio muhimu ya kwa sababu tunapeleka hizi pesa katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Bwana Spika, ni lazima tuone ya kwamba magavana na wale maspika wanaohusika kusambaza hizi pesa wameweza kuzitumia kwa njia ya nidhamu. Matumizi katika hospitali. Tunasema hospitali ni kiwango cha kwanza, manake katika kaunti hakuna kaunti itakuwa na mwelekeo mwema ikiwa watu wake wengi watakuwa ni wagonjwa. Tunataka watu wa Kenya wanaoishi ndani ya Kenya afya zao ziwe sawa sawa. Na jukumu hili sasa limepelekwa katika serikali za mashinani, kuona ya kwamba wale watu wanaowaongoza katika serikali za mashinani wako na afya njema. Na ndio tunasema sababu kubwa ni kwamba ni lazima kitengo kikubwa sana cha hizi pesa zinazokwenda katika serikali zote mashinani ziende katika mahospitali ili ziweze kuchukua madawa, ziweze kuchukua vifaa ambavyo vinaweza, kama mtu amepata ajali, kama mtu anataka kulazwa katika vile vyumba ambavyo zinaitwa intensive care, chumba cha mahututi ambacho mtu anaweza kupata madawa na hatimaye akatoka katika ile hali yake ya mahututi akaja akawa mzima tena akarudi kwa jamii yake akiwa na afya njema. Tunasema hiyo ndio sababu tunasisitiza sana kwamba pesa nyingi ziweze kupelekwa katika mahospitali ili Wakenya wakiwa watakuwa na afya nzuri, nchi yetu itaweza kupata maendeleo zaidi. Bwana Spika, kuna pia vile vile tunasema hali za mawasiliano. Pesa hizi si za kutumia vile mtu anataka kutumia, lakini tuone hali za mawasiliano, barabara zile za mawasiliano, barabara zinazokwenda katika vijiji vyetu vya vitongoji. Tunasema ya kwamba hivyo pia hizi pesa ambazo tumezipeleka hivi sasa ziko katika mikono ya magavana, waweze kuzitumia katika kuona ya kwamba usafiri ama hali ya maisha kutoka point A to point B, wananchi wa Kenya wataweza kusafiri wakiwa na barabara njema. Vile vile Bwana Spika, kwamba uti wa mgongo katika nchi hii, Bwana Spika, ni ukulima. Tunajua kuna wakulima katika sehemu mbalimbali, wengine pengine katika sehemu za kaskazini ya Kenya ni watu ambao wana zaidi sana watumia hali ya mifugo. Tunasema kwamba katika yale maeneo ambao watu wanatoka tofauti tofauti, tuweze kupeana kipaumbele kwa huduma za wale watu wanaoishi kule. Kama sasa watu wa Northeastern, watu wanaoketi kule wanataka ng'ombe zao, wanataka ngamia zao, wanataka mahitaji fulani fulani, tunaona ya kwamba lazima gavana upande ule atie mkazo. Tukija upande wa wakulima, kuna sehemu tofauti tofauti za Kenya kuna wakulima. Tunataka pia magavana hizi pesa ambazo zitakwenda katika ziko katika serikali zetu mashinani waweze kuzingatia kuona ya kwamba wakulima wamepewa kipaumbele, ili waweze kuwa na mashamba yao ambao wataweka rutuba, wataweka fertilizer, wataweza kuweka mbegu ili waweze kupata chakula kingi. Manake hakuna nchi ambayo inaweza kufaulu ndani ya Kenya, Bwana Spika, bila kuona ya kwamba chakula kinapatikana ili watu waweze kushiba, kufanya kazi kwa bidii na kuwe na maendeleo. Tunaita food security. Bwana Spika, mara nyingi tumeona waliosimama wanaopinga. Hatuwakatai, kupinga ni sawa, lakini sana ripoti hii imetengezwa na kamati. Hii ripoti ni ya kamati, si ripoti ya rais. Lakini watu tukiketi hapa kama maseneta, tukianza kusintofahamu ya kwamba tunaongea habari ya taarifa aliyotoa rais ya mwaka wa 24 katika hili bunge letu, tukiileta hapa tukifananisha na hii ripoti, haitakuwa sawa. Tutakuwa tumekosa mwelekeo. Kitu ni kwamba ripoti ya rais iko kando na ripoti hii ambayo imetengenezwa na kamati yetu ya majadiliano katika bunge zote mbili, wakakubaliana katika hizi pesa, ni kwamba tunaongea habari ya pesa zitakazokwenda katika serikali za mashinani ili ziweze kusaidia wananchi wa Kenya. Bwana Spika, nikiweza pia kumaliza, nataka kusema ya kwamba wafanyi kazi wanaofanya katika serikali zetu za mashinani, wale wafanyi kazi, wazungu walisema, na uniruhusu nitumie lugha ya Kimombo, ya kwamba your first client is your employee and a happy worker is a productive worker. Kitu cha kwanza ambacho magavana wanatakana kuona ni kwamba wale wafanyikazi ambao wamewaandika ndani ya maofisi, tunashangaa kwamba sasa kuna sababu ndogo ndogo ambazo tunaweza kuziona zikitoka katika kila mahali katika Kenya, ya kwamba wamekosa kupewa mishahara. Hizi pesa, tunasema hakuna anayetaka kufanya kazi baada ya siku 30 asione mshahara wake ndani ya mfuko, ili aende nyumbani akifurahi kuweza kutoa fees za watoto wake, kuweza kulisha bibi yake, kuweza kumvalisha bibi yake na watoto, ili nyumba ile iwe na raha. Tunaona sumazi zinatandaa katika mafamilia tofauti tofauti, kwa sababu ukiulizwa unasema mimi sina pesa za kulipa mishahara. Lakini sasa hakutakuwa na sababu ya kwamba wafanyikazi wetu wanaofanya katika wanaofanya kazi katika serikali za mashinani watakosa mishahara yao. Nasema ya kwamba kipao cha mbele wafanyikazi wenu wanaofanya katika kaunti zote 47 katika Kenya hivi sasa pesa ziko, walipeni mishahara yao. Bwana Spika, nataka kumalizia. Na kimaliza ya kwamba nasema hii ripoti yetu tuliyoandika, mimi nataka kukubaliana nayo kwa sababu ni ripoti ambayo imepeana mwelekeo, na ni ripoti ambayo imeeleza sababu gani tuliweza kukubaliana kuchukua hizo bilioni 387, tukakubali zile zingine kama 13 zipotee. Lakini hali sintofahamu ya Kenya ya kwamba uchumi hali yake pengine si uzuri, lakini sisi tunasema tu ya kwamba tunawaombea hao magavana waweze kuketi katika yale maofisi, waweze kukaa chini, kutafakari, kuona ya kwamba maji yatasambazwa, barabara zitapatikana, mbegu zitapatikana kupeleka kwa wakulima, hospitalini kutapatikana madawa, na hatimaye pia mishahara ya wananchi ambao wanafanya kazi katika serikali zetu za mashinani watapata mishahara yao kulinganishana na uwezo na kulinganishana na nguvu, na zile maeneo wanaofanya kazi wasifanye kazi kujivunja vifua alafu mishahara isiweze kupatikana. Kwa hiyo tunasema katika hii ripoti tunasisitiza zaidi, na mimi naisupport kwa sababu ni ripoti ambayo imetengenezwa na maseneta wenzetu, wameileta hapa, na sisi tunaona kwamba ripoti hii itasaidia vilivyo katika serikali zetu za mashinani. Asante Bwana Spika.
Honorable Senators, we seem to have a problem with the system. The system has hung. So I will require all of you to log out and then log in afresh. And don't worry about the... yes, it had already hung, yeah. So please just log out and then log in so that we can reboot the system. I do have a list of the speakers. No, let's do it again. Can everybody log out and then wait for my instructions to log in? Log out. Sergeant at Arms, can you assist us to remove the cards which are in the system? Niko na majina ya watu vile kuongea. Very well, Senators, you can now log in again. Very well. Senator Mundingi Alexander.
Ruhusa niweze kuchangia mambo ya hela zile zinaenda katika kaunti zetu. Bwana Spika, naunga mkono kwa hii ripoti ambaye inaonyesha vile pesa itaenda katika mashinani. Ingawa hii pesa haitoshi kwa sababu nakumbuka mwaka jana Bwana Spika, kaunti zote 47 tulikuwa tumewapitishia bilioni 385. Lakini mwaka huu kabla mambo ya bajeti kupita tukawapitishia bilioni 1000, lakini wakati ilirundi huku katika bajeti kuanguka, Bwana Spika, ikawa Parliament walisema kaunti zote 47, Bwana Spika, watapatiwa bilioni 380, ikawa wamepunguza bilioni 5, ikawa maseneta wameona hiyo ifai, na ndio kulisemekana kutatengenezwa kamati, Bwana Spika, ya mediation, na ndio tulichagua maseneta ambaye wale, Bwana Spika, tuliona wanafaa, na wakaenda kukaa kikao na wale watu wa budget katika parliamenti yetu ya Kenya. Bwana Spika, ningesema hizi bilioni wakati walikaa kutoka kwa bilioni 380 wakawa sasa wamerudi kwa zile bilioni 385 na wakaanza safari hapo, na ndipo tunaona sasa ni kama waliongezea bilioni 2 ikawa bilioni 387. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono, ingawa hata hizi pesa haitoshi. Yangu ni kuomba magavana, hizi pesa zitakuja masinani. Ile njia mzuri ni kuomba tu ile pesa wajaribu sana, pesa nyingi iweze kwenda masinani, na katika agriculture ndio key ya serikali na ndio key ya mwananchi, kwa sababu agriculture ndio kila kitu katika Kenya yetu. Mambo ya agriculture ndio iweze kufanya vizuri. Ningeomba kila, Bwana Spika, kila ward ukute wameandika agricultural extension officer, ndio tuweze kuona kilimo itaendelea namna gani, kwa sababu mvua inanyesha, kuna problem ya agricultural officers hakuna, na pia mambo ya monyoko, unakuta mchanga inapepwa na maji. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ningeomba hizi hela ikienda masinani, kitu ya kwanza ni magavana wanjaribu kila county, governor county yake aandike extension officers, na pia kitu kingine angejaribu ni mambo ya afya, ndio watu wetu waanze kuonjeka, kwa sababu shinda ile iko mashinani ni mambo ya agriculture na mambo ya afya. Mambo ingine ya tatu, ili hizi pesa wangejaribu ni parapara, ingawa magavana wawezi kutengeneza zile parapara kubwa, lakini wangejaribu sana pesa zingine waweze kupeleka kwa parapara, ndio ile wakati wakulima watalima mazao zao iweze kwenda kuuzwa na njia ile inafaa. Bwana Spika, mambo ya agriculture inashinda sana, kwa sababu kama Embu County kilimo ni tunawekelea njia ile inafaa. Kama Embu County kilimo yetu ni mambo ya majani, kahawa, makandamia, masiwa na maembe, na pia mura stukumuguka. Kwa hivyo ningependelea kaunti ya Embu iweze kupata pesa na ipeleke masinani, ndio wananchi aweze kupata kilimo ile inafaa. Kitu kingine watengenezewe ile water pans, ndio iweze kujisaidia na ile pesa ya agriculture. Kitu kingine ningeomba upande wa agriculture, kwa sababu hizi pesa haisitoshi. Kuna serikali kuu ambaye ni ya Kenya, iweze ile mahitaji ya counties, kila county iweze kutengenezwa damu kubwa. Kama Embu tunajua wametuahidi watatengenezea ambaye Kamomo ambaye itasaidia Mbere North, na Dhambana ambaye itasaidia Mbere South na Manyata. Kwa hivyo ningeomba pia ile pesa zimebakia serikali kuu, serikali njuu ya kuinua kilimo, watu wa Embu County waweze kutengenezwa zile damu na kilimo ya Embu, na economy itasaidika, na watu watapata kufanya kazi ile inafaa, na tutapata mazao ambaye ni mazuri, na pia economy ya Embu County njuu ya usuru itaweza kuenda juu na serikali ya Kenya. Pia kitu kingine Bwana Spika, ningeomba katika hizi pesa ama serikali kuu iweze kutusaidia wakati tutapata mazao. Saa nyingine tumelima sana, iende ikawa hakuna mahali tutaweza kuuza mazao yetu, iweze kutusaidia njia hata kama ni saa ngambo tuweze kupata pahali tutauza mazao yetu. Kama ni mambo ya mirasi tukumuguka ni mmea ambaye inaendea na njia ile inafaa. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, mimi naunga mkono. Ambaye upande mwingine ningeomba ni serikali ya county ni mambo ya afya. Pesa nyingi iende kwa hospitali yetu ya counties. Asua tunajua health promoters wanafanya kazi nzuri, na nakumbuka ile budget ambaye ilianguka tulikuwa tumeongezea pesa, lakini tulikuwa asikia karibu wawache kulipwa misara, na ni kitu ya aibu sana, kwa sababu Bwana Spika, serikali ya Kenya Kwanza wakati iliingia iliangalia wale watu kwa kipindi ya miaka yote hawakuwa pata pesa chochote, lakini sasa wakasema serikali kuu itatoa 50% na county 5%, na tukafurahia sana. Kwa hivyo ningeomba magavana wafuatilie hao watu, kwa sababu wako masinani. Ati mtoto akisaliwa wameanza kuchukua ripoti zao, na wale wakina mama wazee wako manyumbani wameanza kuchukua ripoti zao, ndio kuweze kuonekana miaka ambayo itakuja kutakuwa na mipangilio ya magonjwa yote kwa kila binadamu. Kwa hivyo ninaunga mkono juu ya hela ya county. Pia hizi pesa ningesema pia upande ya hospitali haitoshi, Bwana Spika. Ningeomba pia serikali kuu iweze kusaidia serikali za county, ile hospitali kubwa waweze kupeleka mandawa na waweze kutengeneza hospitali iwe level 4 na level 5, ndio pia hiyo magonjwa tunasikia kama ni ugonjwa wa kansa na ugonjwa zile zingine. Na pia kuna wale watu wanalipwa na pesa ya county, pia madaktari, kuna wengine wanalipwa na pesa ya national government. Ningeomba serikali ya national government pia iweze kupeleka pesa masinani, ile pesa zingine zimembakia. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, kitu kingine ingeweza kusaidia county zetu ni kila county kuna ile pesa ambayo imekuja kutoka nchi za ng'ambo ya kusaidia mambo ya kupanda upandaji wa miti juu ya climate change. Pia county government na national government waungane pamoja, ndio tuweze kupanda miti, ndio ndamu zile tutatengeneza iwache kukauka, ndio unakuta tunaendelea kupata mvua, ndio mazao yetu iweze kuendelea juu, ndio tuweze kutengeneza ekonomi yetu. Na tukiendelea hivyo Bwana Spika, nchi ya Kenya upande ya kilimo na upande wa afya na upande wa parapara tutaweza kuwa tunainua kilimo yetu. Bwana Spika, ile kitu ningekosoa ni kusema wale watu wanapinga hii mjadala. Nataka niwafahamishe, sio kumaanisha ati kama mimi sijui mambo ya Kiingereza ama Kiswahili. Bwana Spika, ile kitu nataka kusema, ninafahamu vizuri hii mjadala inaongea mambo ya hela ya county, na hakuna mahali president ameingia kwa hii mambo ya hela ya county ya national government. Ile kitu nasema nilikuwa na maanisha ni ati senator wetu ndio alikuwa na msemo na kukaa na kipindi ya MPs ndio aweze kupitisha. President anja kataa kupitisha hela zile tunapitisha, kwa sababu sisi tumepatiwa kazi na mwananchi tuweze kutetea devolution, na pia ikitoka hapa house iweze kwenda kwa parliament. Na parliament imekuwa na shida nyingi sana na magavana, kwa sababu unakuta wanapata hela nyingi kuliko zile tunapatia county. Unakuta constituency moja Bwana Speaker inapata milioni 150 kwa parliament kwa MP moja. Pia hapo wamejiongezea pesa ya parapara wakajipatia milioni 60. Hapo hawa MP pia wakajipatia milioni 30 ya kutengeneza stima. Kwa hivyo sinda ya hizi pesa ya devolution sio makosa ya president, ni makosa ya MP. Kwa hivyo nataka kukosoa wale watu wanapinga hii mjadala, ni tukae chini, kwa sababu Biblia inasema watu wawili waweze kutembea bila kuelewanwa. Ni sisi tuelewanwe, na pia wakati ule mwingine tukae chini tuelewanwe na parliament, ndio tuweze kupatia watu mashinani hela ya kutosha juu ya economy ya counties. Ya mwisho Bwana Speaker, ile ningeomba counties na magovernors, tafadhali kuna ile hela ambaye kule katika mashinani, kwa sababu tumeona hizi hela haitoshi kwa sababu ya kitu inaitwa pending bill na wage bill ambaye iliwachwa na ile magavana walikuwako. Ningeomba ile hela mnaokota huko mashinani muweze kuongezea, ndio ukute mnapata ile pesa. Bwana Speaker, itasaidia kuongezea hii pesa tumempatia, kwa sababu kama county ya Embu County Government ninginafurahia sana na ile governor ambaye ako huko sahi. Embu County ilikuwa imepangiwa kuokota milioni 900, lakini ule governor alikuwa kwa zamani alikuwa naokota milioni 350. Bwana Speaker, saa hii ule governor aliyoko saa hii, ile kitu inafanya ni muunga mkono, amefikisha milioni 750. Na hizo pesa ndio magavana wanakula huko kwa njia ya misosoro. Kwa hivyo naomba governor wa Embu County, umefanya kazi nzuri, lakini haujafikisha ile pesa. Inafaa kutoka milioni 750 ufikishe angalau bilioni 1 iweze kuongezea ile pesa pesa ambaye itatoka katika huku mambo ya Senate. Kwa hivyo ningeomba uweze kujifunza na kaunti zile zingine, kwa sababu tumesikia kaunti nyingi imeweza kutafuta njia ya kuta pesa ya usuru huko mashinani. Kwa hivyo nashukuru kaunti ya Embu County na wale wafanyikazi mnaokota ile pesa. Jameni, ile line zote zinaweza kuharibia sisi. Ningeomba kaunti ya Embu County muweze kufunga ndio tuweze kuona kama tutafika ile pahali inafaa. Bwana Spika, unakuta kaunti zimekuwa na shinda hapa na pale upande wa hospitali. Ningeomba serikali iweze kuangalia. Nikimalizia Bwana Spika, mambo ya treasury iko na shinda. Waziri ambaye wa fedha, ningeomba muweze kukumbaliana na counties vile kila mwezi, kama serikali ya Kenya Kwanza wakati iliingia, rais wetu alisema kila mwezi mpaka county iwe ikipata pesa, Bwana Spika. Na saa hii juzi tumesikia kama ni miezi 2, miezi 3 county haijapata pesa. Kwa hiyo naomba waziri wa fedha na pia na wale watu wafanya kwa fedha muweze kupatia county zetu kila mwezi pesa ndio tuweze devolution iweze kuwa masinani na tuweze kuona vile serikali ya Kenya Kwanza inafanya, kwa sababu inasema ni pesa mkononi. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, mimi nikiwa senator wa Embu County naunga mkono, na mimi ni Daktari Alexander Munyi Mundigi. Asante Bwana Spika.
Senator Samson Cherargei.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for this opportunity to make a few comments on the report of mediated version of the Senate and the National Assembly. From the onset, Mr. Speaker, I need to say that I'm disappointed by the outcome of the process. It looks like, Mr. Speaker, we did succumb to the whims and wishes of the National Assembly on this discussion. Mr. Speaker, while East counties continue to struggle with challenges of corruption, underdevelopment, poor performance, it is not justifiable to deny them resources. Mr. Speaker, when we propose 400 billion, his colleagues went us bashing us in funerals and baby showers and bridal showers. Mr. Speaker, to preside over where counties have not received adequate resourcing. The reasoning we proposed 400 billion was not out of nowhere, Mr. Speaker. 400 billion was enough for counties. The fact that we are cutting it to 387 billion, Mr. Speaker, is quite unfortunate. Many people would want to say additional of 3 billion or 7 billion because in the last session it was 385 billion, Mr. Speaker. I feel disappointed that the only way we can remove the hit on the development of this country from national government is to resource counties to be able to do their functions as per the Constitution, Mr. Speaker. So this 387 billion, Mr. Speaker, is not sufficient to counties. But I want to appeal, Mr. Speaker, even on this issue of equalization fund of 8 billion, we are yet to release as per Article 204. The money has yet to be released, Mr. Speaker. You have heard we have been push and pull here, Mr. Speaker. Even on the issue of concurrent functions like disaster, Mr. Speaker, I expected the national government to shoulder the responsibility of community health promoters, CHVs, fully, because it's not expensive. Anyway, health is devolved. I expected county national government to shoulder the issue of industrial parks, where 250 million by county and 250 million by national government, because these are concurrent functions. Mr. Speaker, the biggest danger to devolution is clawback of its function, number one. Number two is the unbundling of functions that should follow costs, Mr. Speaker. There are many functions that are still being retained by national government, yet it should be unbundled to the counties, including function follow money, Mr. Speaker. For example, health is supposed, the function of health is fully devolved. The only role the national government comes is it was on policy, Mr. Speaker. And you remember the MES, medical equipment supplies, in the last session, Mr. Speaker, we were fighting very hard, Mr. Speaker, over the issue of medical equipment supplies. It became one of the biggest rip-off to counties, Mr. Speaker, up to date. So I think, Mr. Speaker, even as we say the issue of road maintenance levy fund, Mr. Speaker, I still insist that that money belongs to county governments. 11 billion Kenya shillings. And I want to ask members of National Assembly, why are they being greedy? They are getting close to 40 billion, Mr. Speaker, through CDF, which under the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker, it has been ruled that CDF is unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. And I want to borrow the words of the AUC nominee, Mr. Speaker. When he read his statement, the party leader of Senator Richard Onyonga, when he said the role of Parliament, both National Assembly and the Senate, should be and must be oversight. It is high time that we scrap totally CDF, Mr. Speaker. There is no need. How can you preside, oversight the money that you are spending yourself? Why don't we take all money and give it to counties? Then all of us oversight. Let them oversight national agencies, we oversight counties. Even this RLMF, 11 billion, they want to add themselves over Kera. Kera and Kura is unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy people in court are arguing that Kera and Kura are unconstitutional, Mr. Speaker. Because as we talk today, the members of National Assembly have all hostage Kera to do their own bidding, Mr. Speaker. So the issue of CDF, which every county is receiving, every constituency is receiving over 100 million, and the argument, Mr. Speaker, the misnomer I hear on the streets is very simple. You know, CDF is doing more. Oh, we have seen CDF. CDF was started in 2003. It is the high time we consolidate all the funds, do division of revenue to national government and to the counties, then oversight both, Mr. Speaker. And I agree in the principle of AUC candidate Raila Odinga when he says, let members of parliament do the oversight of the funds that they appropriate. The budget making process, and I had a member here saying that the president and I want to do pro bono legal advice on the floor of the House to all Kenyans. President and national executive are not involved in the budget making process. The budget making process is an exclusive domain of this National Assembly and the Senate. It was decided in the petition number 3 of 2013 by the Supreme Court, Mr. Speaker. So we should correct Ms. Norma that the national executive nor the president does not participate in any way in budget making process, Mr. Speaker, and therefore it should be handled. Number 2, Mr. Speaker, counties continue the issue of pending bills. Mr. Speaker, are you aware most of our businessmen in Garissa, in Nandi, in Kisii, have died following up for their pending payments by the counties, Mr. Speaker? As of June 2024, Mr. Speaker, counties owed pending bills of 158 billion. Including Garissa, your businessmen and women are suffering because they cannot be paid by counties. I saw the governor of, who is the chair of finance, the governor of Kakamega, telling us the biggest danger to devolution is control of budget. It is not. What governors are doing is voiding payments. They take money to pay Haji, but they pay Aaron. That's what they are doing. And the control of budget must be on lookout to ensure the proper approvals of the money. We will not allow governors to run away with corruption. I saw the chair of finance and I was worried. What is he talking about? The biggest problems in functionality of counties are governors themselves because they do voiding of payments and steal the money. Why do we have, Mr. Speaker, after resolution of this House through pending bills, we did say money should be paid all across the counties, 158 billion as of June 2024. No one has paid. Governors, the other day, there was a misnomer, and I was embarrassed, Mr. Speaker. They were saying they have not received money. When the CS of National Treasury released the report, they had received up to October 158 billion Kenya shillings. They are yet to relieve November, Mr. Speaker. And they are lying to Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, led by the chair of Wajir, Ahmed Abdullahi, where Wajir is dysfunctional. As we talk today, and I look at the CBK accounts, Wajir County as county government has 2.6 billion lying. Kisii has 6.7 billion lying in CBK. Nandi has 2 billion lying in CBK. Yet the chairperson of COG is telling the country there is no money, yet they have their money in CBK accounts of 2.6 billion. Yet people of Wajir cannot arrest drugs, cannot access roads. Even in Nandi, Mr. Speaker, we have 2 billion. Yet the governor is basically lamenting and perambulating and talking in funerals and giving out handouts and buying djembe sticks and buying machetes, Mr. Speaker. As if we are giving them money to prepare for war, Mr. Speaker. It is very unfortunate, and I feel embarrassed, and I want to tell Inspector General of Police, Douglas Kanja, some of us in Nandi no longer believe in functionality of security. Somebody was arrested when we went to occupy Nandi County Assembly on the ad hoc report, where Governor Sang cannot account for more than 10 billion Kenyan shillings worth of projects. Someone senior within Nandi County Executive was arrested with machetes and djembes. The only thing that the police did in Nandi is to give him lavidavis. As we talk today, one young man was attacked by the name de Gitaro in Nandi Hills town. The person who attacked is a governor's goon. He's here to be arrested today. The DCIO and DC Amin and IG Douglas Kanja are doing about it, nothing about it. The goonism is Nandi is the order of the day. Anybody, I saw even in Dr. Ondari's funeral's father, goons have taken over funeral services in Kisii, Mr. Speaker. It is very unfortunate, and I saw Senator Onyonga and Madam Donya, Mr. Speaker. We are not appropriating monies to counties to run goonism. The way, Mr. And I am embarrassed. I am disappointed by Nandi County security team that up to today, Mr. Speaker, you can even check in media. They were goons allegedly sponsored by governor carrying djembe sticks and machetes on camera. The Nandi County security team led by county commander has never arrested anybody. What are you telling us? Why are we appropriating this money? If goons are walking around, Mr. Speaker, you can't ask questions. The moment in Nandi you try and question, I saw a young girl called Vero was being threatened. Another young man called Basi was being threatened. I've told you of a young man called Digitaro. He was attacked by broad daylight in Nandi Hills town. And it is only 50 meters from Nandi Hills police station. No one has been arrested. Somebody who did that is known. Mr. Speaker, we must agree as a nation. You saw yesterday in Turkana County, Mr. Speaker, despite that Turkana County has received over 100 billion Kenya shillings. When it rained to Turkana yesterday, Turkana County Referral Hospital was flooded because of poor workmanship. Turkana has received over 100 billion. Yet the governor of Turkana, from the reliable intelligence I have, whenever he goes to funerals, he dishes out 1,000 shillings to the people of Turkana. You saw in Turkana, a Form 4 graduate, Mr. Speaker, it was reported in the news. A Form 4 graduate was dispensing medicine. What are you telling us? What is EACC doing? What is DCI doing? If a Form 4 graduate somewhere in Turkana is dispensing medicine, and we are sitting here as a Senate, as if nothing is happening, then there is a big problem with this country. The system is broken. The way governors, Mr. Speaker, including your governor, where it's only a few meters to the river and there is no water in Garissa town, Mr. Speaker, is receiving money, smiling, and all the way to the bank. They should come back and account it before the floor of the House. I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, when you ask governors to appear before committees of, they don't come. I issued summonses to the governor of Kisii, Simbarat. I have issued summonses against governor of Taraka, Mudomi Njuki. We have issued summonses to Machakos governor and even governor of Isiolo, because they don't want to come to account, Mr. Speaker. But they are busy taking money from us, but they cannot come back to account, Mr. Speaker. I remember even when the Senate and in the County Assembly of Nandi, Mr. Speaker, when the ad hoc report of a 10 billion projects like Kapsabet, Mother's Baby Newborn Unit, there is no mortuary in Kapsabet town, Mr. Speaker. The one that was there was built by Muzungu. Our people are suffering. You go to Nandi Hills, there is no drugs. Across Kobuja Sub-County Hospital, Kobuja Sub-County Hospital is less than 50 meters from the governor's house. God forbid if he gets sick, he cannot access medical care in Kobuja Sub-County, Kobuja Hospital, which is toll. Kapsengere is toll, Mr. Speaker. Even all the projects are told that were allocated money. When the members of County Assembly in Nandi tried to pass the ad hoc report, there was a lot of intimidation and blackmail against the MCS. And I want to thank the MCS almost 19 of them, led by the chair of ad hoc committee, Kapsabet ward member of county assembly, for standing firm and fighting for justice, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, because I can see my time is fast spent, corruption in counties must be fought. As we talk, Mr. Speaker, I want to challenge the nominee of EACC, Mr. Abdi, to walk the talk. We are tired of EACC frying only omena instead of frying mbuta, Mr. Speaker. As we talk today, Mr. Speaker, Nandi County, there was a payroll fraud. The EACC and DCI came to Nandi, took away computers. Up to today, no one has been arrested. Even after Public Service Commission report came out in Nandi and showed, Mr. Speaker, that a number of people hired by governor were earning salary without working. No one has been arrested up to today. One of them was his campaign soloist. Another was a media presenter. Some of them were close relatives, Mr. Speaker. Up to today, EACC and DCI have arrested them. So what are you telling us, Mr. Speaker? The system is broken. It is as simple as that. You saw what happened in Kisii, the same thing with employees fiasco. No one has been held accountable in the issue of employment saga, even in Isiolo. Mr. Speaker, even we want to challenge the new EACC CEO. We are tired of appropriating funds. Not your one is held accountable. Up to today, on the issue of payroll fiasco in Nandi, none has been arrested up to today, Mr. Speaker. We must be told. I want to challenge the new CEO nominee, Mr. Abdi, to walk the talk as EACC. Let us stop. You know, they come with abracadabra, come with vehicles, take computers, take copies. 1 month, no one has been arrested. 2 months, no one has been arrested. Yes, and they see each other through the tent, Mr. Speaker. Thank you. Today, Senator Onyonga is one of my biggest cheer squad here on the floor of the House, Mr. Speaker, and I'm proud of it. Mr. Speaker, that is very unfortunate that we give money to EACC and DCI from taxpayers to fight corruption, but there is nothing to smile on about. As a reggae song says, when you look outside the window, do you see anything to smile about? Our counties are becoming bastions of inefficiency, moribancy, corruption, Mr. Speaker, as we talk today. Even finally on Earth resource, Mr. Speaker, Nairobi, under CRA, have potential of 67 billion, but they are collecting 12 billion. Where is 50 billion? Nandi has revenue potential of 700 million. They are collecting 200 million. Where is it, Mr. Speaker? And I see governors celebrating, but they are not telling the country in their own source revenue. Today, give value. Governors will talk about equitable shareable revenue being appropriated, but they'll never tell you about their own source revenue. Where border stickers in Chepterit, in Aldai, in Chemase, Mr. Speaker, are paying for border stick. In Mosoriot, in Kaptumo, in Kobucha, in Chepterwa, in Maraba, Mr. Speaker, in Nandils, my women, Mama Mboga, even in Kapsabet town, they have a dysfunctional town market where there is no sanitary, including toilets. Those women sit from morning to evening. There is no toilets, Mr. Speaker, to use, but they are paying money to counties. Those border, it's raining in Nandi now. The roads are impassable. Border have been forced to construct shades of grass, Mr. Speaker, to protect themselves from the sun or the rain. Yet that own source revenue, governors will not tell you about. If you ask the COG chair, which is an exclusive Ahmed Abdullahi, they will never tell you about own source revenue. They will tell you about money in treasury. They will never tell you what they are doing under CRA revenue potential, Mr. Speaker. So I want to challenge, Mr. Speaker, that on own source revenue, we must agree that the own source revenue should give value for our people going into the future, Mr. Speaker. We must ensure, and I am happy that as a Senate, we must have a conversation. I want to challenge, just 30 seconds, Mr. Speaker. I want to challenge that we need to work towards it. Mr. Speaker, I oppose this report. I thank you.
Thank you, Senator Veronica Ndwati.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the indulgence to allow me to share my views. First of all, Mr. Speaker, allow me to congratulate the mediation team that sat to consider the request and the proposal for the revision of the Division of Revenue Act 2024, which was initially assented to on 10th June 2024, but due to factors that led to the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, it necessitated an amendment that was then introduced, and the two houses, Mr. Speaker, were not in agreement on the figures, and that called for the kicking in of the articles that enable a mediation to take place between the two houses. Let me first say, Mr. Speaker, that the trend that was set by this mediation committee was to the effect that the business being conducted both by National Assembly and then the Senate, Mr. Speaker, that both houses can come to a consensus, which then helps us to move important matters which have national consequence to a conclusion that then becomes a win-win situation for the citizens of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, one of the issues that the Senate felt very strongly, and because I was one of the members of the mediation team, was that reducing the county allocation to 380 billion would then have meant that it has been reduced less than what was given to the counties in the financial year 2023 to 2024, Mr. Speaker. And that then fostered a very robust conversation and a dialogue, almost close to a conflict between the two houses, Mr. Speaker, because Senate was of the view that we could not allow a reduction of that revenue below what was allocated last year, or the last financial year, Mr. Speaker. So I want to say that it was due to a very good process which was respected by both houses, that members were able to agree that at least the funds that we support devolution should be improved to 387 billion. We are not saying this is the best figure that could have been allocated to the counties, Honorable Speaker, because our vision was to ensure that counties could have up to 400 billion, Mr. Speaker, but it was not possible because of the withdrawal of the Finance Bill 2024, which resulted to a shortfall in the projected revenue. And as a result, there was a shortfall of 346 billion, and counties were being pushed to take in a reduction of 20 billion, which we felt was too high because of the nature of services that are rendered by the county governments, Mr. Speaker. Let me from the onset state this. If counties were allocated 400 billion, or allocated 380 billion, or 390 billion, or 360 billion, Honorable Speaker, and yet we have so much wasted in the same counties, Mr. Speaker, even the 380 or the 400 will still not become useful to the Kenyans, to the citizens of this nation. That is why, Mr. Speaker, my first take on this mediated version of the bill, which I believe should now not face any opposition in both houses, is that, Honorable Speaker, it is time we face one another as citizens, as leaders, and agreed that it is time to curb wastage, to reduce on cost of how we do business, how we conduct business, and it is time we change the culture of our government offices, government officials, county offices, county officials, and let's say public service, Mr. Speaker. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we were to reduce corruption even by 40%, it would unlock so much potential in this nation, Honorable Speaker. We would be finding world-class hospitals in all our counties, Honorable Speaker. So my first take is, even with the resources that have been allocated to the counties, we need to see much more service being rendered to Wananchi, and not just service, but, Honorable Speaker, very quality service. Mr. Speaker, we have seen a situation where the county governments, on very many occasions, we look up to the national government for allocation of more resources, Honorable Speaker. But sometimes when you visit the counties or you listen to the reports that are coming to PEAK or PAC committees, Honorable Speaker, you wonder whether those counties are within the Republic of Kenya. You know, this house is known for supporting devolution and encouraging that more resources must be devolved to go to Wananchi, Honorable Speaker. But what has been happening is the wanton abuse and misuse of public resources now has to stop, Honorable Speaker. And there is also that question of on-source revenue. Why aren't counties being able to concentrate on collecting revenue and improving service that people are even happy to pay for that service? Honorable Speaker, if you listen to many Kenyans, any provider who gives quality service is always assured of a clientele, Honorable Speaker. But the challenge we are having right now, unless we cap the wastage, even if 500 billion is allocated to the counties, it will still not be useful to Ananchi. Honorable Speaker, I support this report, and I would urge even the likes of Senator Cherargei, because it's a mediated version, and all factors were considered, that all our members should support this report so that we unlock these resources for the counties, because we cannot go to Christmas, we cannot go to recess, we cannot go on holiday before we pass this mediated bill, Honorable Speaker, and agree that resources must be devolved to the county and disbursed to the counties. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Esther Okenyuri.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I also wish to support this report. When I actually look at the composition of the members who sat to mediate over this issue, from our side of the Senate, I see very good brains, even on the other side of the National Assembly, like one Dr. John Chikati, who was my former boss in my previous workplace. Mr. Speaker, it's interesting that mediation offers chance for us to sit ground on some of the issues maybe we would have not otherwise considered. And I've had an opportunity to serve at least in 3 mediation committees, and I know the intrigue that go in there. Glad we have now this version so that we can actually have our counties in full operation. I would not really want to dwell much on the issue of figures. Yes, it's our allocation and of this shareable revenue is one of the Senate's core mandates, but I want to go into issues of once money has gone down to counties, then what do counties have to do with that money, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, when I was actually looking at some of the observations and recommendations of this report, I saw a suggestion that counties need to have a bigger look at their own sources of revenue. Mr. Speaker, their own sources of revenue currently are way low what is expected. For instance, if I give you an example, if you go to a place like Kajiado, a case in Point Rongai, if you meet county officials, they'll charge you for a service and put that money in their pockets. You do not see any kind of accountability in that case. That is money lost. Mr. Speaker, the 47 county governments need to prioritize, especially giving training to their officials who are on the revenue collection sector. The Commission for Revenue Allocation has given guidelines on how they need to go about that. This is a very progressive way of curbing losses, especially in revenue collection. Training also needs to happen on the management, on policy makers who are in that sector, Mr. Speaker, because we need to generally engage all sectors so that we are not facing hostility when we are encouraging collection of more revenue, that is in form of taxes. When you actually encourage all stakeholders in that particular county, you are less likely to face resistance. I saw my colleague Senator Cherargei very angry at the county chiefs and the corruption going in there. I need him to be more angrier and call out corruption in all quarters, not just county government. Because, Mr. Speaker, yes, when you actually look at the way spending is done at county government, then you really conclude the kind of spending that happens is not meant to help normal citizens, but more of the political class. Because when you actually go and see some of the payments that are being done, you see there is budgeting for maybe a leadership training that was undertaken in Dubai, people going to study about poverty alleviation in another country. Do you need to go to another country to study how they are alleviating poverty? We have our own case in Kenya. Those are situations that surround us on a daily basis, Mr. Speaker. And when you even look at most of the indexes we are looking at, especially in subdividing this money, one which is most critical, the health index. Mr. Speaker, most of these county governments are less prioritizing this sector. But as a parliament, we have passed so many laws that need to support the health sector to work very well. The other time we passed a facility improvement fund legislation. There was also legislation that was enabling even the surrounding persons to enable they have a committee of their own in their local dispensary that provides oversight, Mr. Speaker. So citizens also need to know they are equal partakers of what is currently happening, Mr. Speaker. In as much as we are calling out the political class, the citizens also need to know the political class we have right now are a representation of who they are. Because if citizens want change, Mr. Speaker, we need to start by carefully looking at the kind of leaders we elect, Mr. Speaker. And that's why I was very excited, because I believe an informed citizenry is a citizenry that is able to make right decisions for themselves and for what they want in terms of leadership, Mr. Speaker. The other issue I actually want to major on is agriculture, Mr. Speaker. Now that we have the rains, there are several initiatives that have been given by government, especially when we come to the subsidized fertilizer that has been given. These are opportunities we need to take advantage of, especially from the farmers. I know the Kenya National Seeds Company has been doing piloting in certain counties, and there are counties which have made a milestone and gone ahead to have collaboration with the Kenya Seed Company to promote their farmers. I would love to encourage more other county chiefs to borrow this and implement in their own counties. It's one way of making citizens self-reliant, because Kenyans have the energy to go to their farms and till land, make money for themselves, and also contribute to the national economy, Mr. Speaker. The other issue is the general population. You go to certain counties where, let's say, the poverty rate is around 49%, Mr. Speaker. But when you look at their priorities towards addressing that poverty rate, you actually get saddened and say then you are actually thinking of the wrong things, Mr. Speaker. So this is something we as members of the political class and citizens need to seriously think about. Why are we glorifying corruption? It's not just for the county chiefs. The moment you receive a handout from someone who's already taken a bigger portion from you, you are actually glorifying whatever they are doing. In civilized states, I see corrupt people even being executed. But in Kenya and in our counties, we glorify those people seriously. And any attempt to speak negatively about such actions would make you very unpopular. So I would want Kenyans, specifically young people, the future is not something you're anticipating to come any other time soon. The future is now. Young people who comprise majority of the numbers in this country, the women who are most affected when tragedy strikes, the children who will struggle daily to secure their future. These are some of the special interest groups we need to look at when we actually want to perpetuate actions that are always pushing them to the corner, Mr. Speaker. So in as much as there is clamor for more money to counties, I wish counties would spend money better. It's not just about getting more money, but spending this money better. Finally, Mr. Speaker, I mentioned we have already current laws that have been, that Parliament has passed. Why don't we make use of such laws? We shouldn't make laws to just exist on paper. We should enforce these laws so that any other time we are legislating, people can see change happening, so that not every other parliament that comes here, we keep lamenting about the same issue. And at least this time round, the National Assembly didn't want to twist and show the normal rivalry that happens between the National Assembly and Senate. That shows that we are at a time where people and leaders want to put their heads together so that we solve the challenges we are facing as a country together, Mr. Speaker. So with those remarks, I wish to support my colleagues who sat and actually crafted this, and I wish that this passes so that counties can get resources to continue with their activities, but I want to warn the county chiefs against wasting such money, because when you waste such money, you're putting the lives of so many other people at risk. So many people who are not accessing affordable health care. And so many years after we actually passed the 2010 Constitution, so that we have this devolved government to have services closer to the people. We didn't want to have corruption affecting people more at that local level, Mr. Speaker. So I want to support this report. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator William Kisang.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I also rise to support this mediated version of the Division of Revenue Bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not lost to all of us as senators or even members of National Assembly that the reason why we are in this particular situation, because we had already earlier passed Dora and Kara, Honorable Speaker, but because of what happened on 25th and 26th of June, Honorable Speaker, the finance bill had to be shelved, had to be withdrawn, and it has occasioned basically a reduction of over 300 billion generally in the budget, and it has caused now the reduction of the shareable revenue to the counties to 387.425 billion, Honorable Speaker, from 400 billion, which all of us as senators had passed, and we had agreed that the reason why we wanted to give more to the counties was because of several reasons. One of the reasons, Honorable Speaker, is because of the housing levy. Basically, the counties were contributing the counterpart portion of the 1.5% of the housing levy from its employees, Honorable Speaker. And then another portion that the counties were contributing is to NSSF, because NSSF is a pension basically fund, and what the employee is contributing, the employer is also expected to contribute. That is what occasioned also the reduction of the amount the counties were using on the development budget, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it is good to give credit to our colleagues, especially the senators who were in that committee, because if you saw the team from National Assembly, especially the co-chair of that team, Honorable Speaker, he was very adamant that 38 billion was going to be enough to go to the counties, and that would have been very sad, Honorable Speaker, because last financial year, 2023-24, what was sent to the counties was 385,425 million, Honorable Speaker, and it would have occasioned basically a reduction from what they got last year. So the difference of 2.5 billion from last year's, I believe it will basically enable the governors to sort out the expenses on the housing levy, NSSF contributions, and also their counterpart, the 2,500,000 that they'll contribute to pay the community elder promoters as their portion, because I believe the national government will continue to contribute the other half of the stipend to our community elder promoters, because these particular community elder promoters, Honorable Speaker, are the ones who are helping the counties and both the national government, basically, especially in rolling out now the famous Taiva Care, Honorable Speaker, so that our people can get basically services in medical field under the Social Health Authority and Social Health Insurance Fund, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, it's not easy. We know we are facing challenges. And the President was very clear when he spoke on Thursday, when he was addressing the nation, when he was giving the State of the Nation address, Honorable Speaker, that when Kenya Kwanza government came into power, there were a lot of challenges. And he also gave us a warning then that at the beginning, we will go through a lot of challenges, but in due course, Honorable Speaker, things will change for the better. That is why, Honorable Speaker, we have been told that as of September last year, the inflation rate, Honorable Speaker, was 9.6%. And as of October this year, it has dropped from 9.6 last year, September, to 2.7%. Honorable Speaker, I know Kenyans are asking, why are we not feeling this drop on inflation? There are many factors, Honorable Speaker. We thank God that the rains have continued for long. Our people across the country, they have food, and the rains are also continuing to grow, to rain, Honorable Speaker. And our people, we continue to tell them to plow, grow, so that at least the basic needs, food, is put on the table, Honorable Speaker. I believe this is one of the key reasons why inflation has dropped, Honorable Speaker, from that 9.6 to 2.7, and this they said it's the highest drop in 17 years, which is good news, and I believe by next year we are going to feel the effects of this drop in inflation rate, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there are many other issues that we were told during that State of Nation address, which is also related to this particular mediated version of the bill, Honorable Speaker, that our governors, there is a lot of wastage, there is a lot of corruption, both at the national level and also at the county level. And we want to warn the governors, and especially EACC, we expect the big fish to be arrested. We want investigations to be done. Why are there files that are lying at EACC for the last 5 years, for the last 10 years, for the last 6 months? As the President said, our petitions at the judiciary take only 6 months. Why are we not able to prosecute corruption cases within the same time? Why is EACC not able to investigate within a short time, take the file to DPP and the Director of Public Prosecution, take people to court and let them set an example? As my colleagues have said, when you go to China, if you are found as corrupt, basically you're executed. So I think maybe we need to review our constitution again and see if this can be brought back, Honorable Speaker. So that, because if the resources that we are sending to the counties and also what remains at the national government are used well, are used prudently, basically we should not be borrowing. We should not borrow. We should be using our pension funds to do private, public projects, Honorable Speaker. Why are we going to India? Why are we going to China? We should use our pension funds. NSSF, CPF, LAF Fund should be doing all these things. To go across the outside here, Honorable Speaker, you will see CBK Pension has put up a building, Teleposta was put up by a postal pension scheme. Let us use these pension funds to fund projects within the country, because the moment we use the Kenya shilling, we borrow, we will not have that problem of the foreign exchange issues. Because if you read, I read the report in the course of the week, Honorable Speaker, that the reason why our loans are not coming down, they are growing day by day, it is because of the exchange rate. Luckily, now the exchange rate to the dollar, Honorable Speaker, is 129. It came down from 162, a drop of 20%. So we say thank God, and we thank the policy, because of the policy changes that they have put in place. That's why the shilling has strengthened and also is stabilized. Because When it is stable, at least it is predictable, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, from what we have seen that there are some organizations, especially the national government, Honorable Speaker, that has digitized. When Kenya Kwanza government came into power, they said they had only digitized about 5,000 services. Now there are 20,000, 6,000%. There is growth of revenue. Why are our governors not digitizing their services to seal leakages of revenue? In fact, Honorable Speaker, as an ICT, I'm a member of ICT committee, and we have done an inquiry. And we are going to travel to about 4 counties this weekend, Honorable Speaker, to see the systems they are using. Because when you digitize, Honorable Speaker, basically you minimize wastages, you see leakages, just the way the national government has done, and revenue has grown by 6,000%, Honorable Speaker. We were told last week by His Excellency the President and Honorable Speaker that KWS, by using e-citizen, the revenue grew from about 4 billion to around 7 billion. Very soon, they'll not need any money from the exchequer. We want to reach a level where our counties are not relying on the share of revenue. That should be coming as a pleasant to do especially development projects, Honorable Speaker, because the county governments are relying on share of revenue to pay salaries, to buy medicine, to do infrastructure projects, and basically what is left to pay, it is, in fact, most of the counties, the resources that go to development are less than 10%. So basically, our counties are a source of, it's like an employment bureau, Honorable Speaker. I mean, there's nothing much that you see. Recently, we went, as a energy committee, went to Wajir. Apart from maybe the county assembly that is being built and the governor's office, you don't see anything else. You move around, you don't see much. So, and this one is replicated everywhere in Kenya, apart from maybe the resources they get directly from donors, maybe World Bank to do the roads within the major towns within the counties. Otherwise, there's nothing else. They built ECDs for the last 12 years. Counties are just using money to build early childhood education classrooms. Because in Elgeyo Marakwet County, I've not seen anything much that has been done. We were in Turkana last year, Senate Mashinani. The governor's office has been built for the last 12 years. It's not complete. And they have spent, no, it's not, I think it's over 9 billion. Yeah. So, over $1 billion to do a small thing. Same in Tarakaniti. The other day we were told they even got money from the conditional grant, but the buildings are not complete. So, we want the governors to digitize this project, to digitize the services, to see leakages. And what they also need to do, our business community, especially the transporters, they have multiple levies. You transport a bag of cement, a lorry of sand from Magweni, you pay levies. You come to Machakos, you pay levies. You come to Nairobi, you pay levies. So, Honorable Speaker, basically we are saying our governors need to digitize, they need to use the resources well, Honorable Speaker, so that our people can benefit properly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I believe what we need to do then is to increase our oversight role. We need to visit the counties. We partner with the MCS so that we ensure the governors, the executives of the counties do proper implementation of projects, and they put in enough resources to complete a project within either 1 or 2 financial years, so that projects don't continue. A new governor comes, he shelves a project that was started by the predecessor, and basically, eventually, we don't benefit. Honorable Speaker, finally, on road maintenance levy, Honorable Speaker, I agree with the governors. I know they have gone to court. This is money that we should not give to members of National Assembly. The business of National Assembly is the same as senators, to do legislation, oversight, and representation. And anything that touches development should be done by the National Executive or the County Executive, Honorable Speaker. So the RLMF funds should be given directly to the governors, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, with those few remarks, I support and ask colleagues, please let us support so that by the time we go for our long recess, the governors can access more resources and the controller budget, please expedite and release resources to the counties by approving. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Senator Richard Onyonka, I would like to give you to contribute on this matter, but Senator Mariam has been here waiting the whole morning. So if we can agree, I give Senator Mariam 10 minutes and you finish with the rest of the time. Senator Mariam, please 10 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. Mr. Speaker, I stand to support this amendment, this mediation amendment of division of revenue. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I acknowledge and thank the members of the committees led by the co-chair, that is my party leader, UDM, none other than Captain Ali Roba, for his leadership to come up with this bill. Mr. Speaker, sharing of county, this division revenue bill is only 15%. 85% is under national government. Mr. Speaker, this 15%, it normally goes to the county, and out of that 15%, it's supposed to be 30% for development and 70% for revenue, for recurrent expenditure. Mr. Speaker, but what's going on now, it's totally different. 50% counties are using for 50% they are using, no, 80% they are using for recurrent. Now, instead of 30%, they're using 15% for development. That means our development is minimum. Mr. Speaker, since withdrawal of this finance bill, that is 2024, there is a shortfall. So indeed, the governor also supposed to streamline their expenditure. That's why from 400 million, they have reduced to 385. That shows that the county government also to be straightforward on prioritizing how to do their projects. Mr. Speaker, when we are reducing from 400 to 385, let's also remind ourselves that there is additional funds to the counties. That is housing levy, this SHIF, and also there is NSSF, and there is also industrial park. Mr. Speaker, as much as there is also additional expenditure, we need to prioritize our projects. Mr. Speaker, when we are passing this bill, that means we are taking care of the devolution, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, why am I saying that? Because devolution is working. I can prove that in Mandera County, Mr. Speaker. Currently, we are, as before, referral hospital in Mandera County. We are referring all the county, sub-counties to Mandera County Referral Hospital, but currently, under equalization fund, we are doing our surgeries in a town called Takaba and Banisa. Mr. Speaker, that showed that the county devolution is working. Mr. Speaker, also during COVID, in Mandera County, we are maintaining our ICU properly, and that means that devolution is working. Mr. Speaker, on this scenario of collection of revenue on the side of counties, Mr. Speaker, they have to put a strong mechanisms on how to increase their revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, instead of relying on county issues and the national government, for instance, there is this major dam. Mr. Speaker, the governor must prioritize the projects, because what we need currently is a major dam. We don't have to wait national government to do our project. For how long, Mr. Speaker? So as a CEO of the government, the county government, that is the governor, must sit down and focus on what is our priorities, so that at least this rain season, the flood cannot be wasted. We have to harvest water. Mr. Speaker, the government, Mr. Speaker, the county, Mr. Speaker, governors, sometimes they do the national projects instead of the county development. For instance, imagine governor doing, constructing a secondary school, classrooms, whereas there is an installed project of maternity ward. Mr. Speaker, in that scenario, they have to. That shows that they are prioritizing the national government project instead of county project. Mr. Speaker, in some counties also, in some counties also, there is a medical equipment which has been installed, cannot be used, because, Mr. Speaker, what a shame. If a government, national government can give you meds, through the meds can give you an equipment, and the governor could just sit down, wrap his hand together, and wanted also national government to connect for him or her the equipment. Mr. Speaker, we have to, the county government must sit down and think of what to do on their project. Mr. Speaker, with all this, thank you very much, and I support.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Onyonka.
Ndugu Spika, kwa kusema ukweli, huu ndio wakati wangu wa kwanza kushughulika kwa kutoa maoni yangu kuhusu sheria hii ambayo tumetunga juzi kuhusu makadirio ya fedha ya kiserikali na maeneo ya gatuzi nchini mwetu. Ndugu Spika, nilipokuwa nikichangia wakati tulikuwa tuna mawiano na mazungumzo kuhusu hizi hela, nilikuwa mmoja wa wale wabunge wa seneti ambao nilikuwa nakataa, kwa sababu fikira zangu zilikuwa, na hata sasa saa hizi fikira zangu ni kuwa zile hela ambazo county zilikuwa zimepewa zilikuwa zimetosha na hakukuwa na haja ya kuziondoa, kwa sababu zile pesa ambazo serikali kuu inazitumia kiasi chake ni kikubwa, kwa sababu ni 85 kwa asilimia. Lakini baada ya ndugu zangu kuchangia hapa na kuzungumza yale maneno na shida ambazo tumejipata hapo ndani, ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema hivi. Jambo la kwanza ningependa kumuuliza Mheshimiwa Rais wa nchi ya Kenya, tafadhali hakikisha ugatue zile kazi ambazo magatuzi ya kaunti zetu zote zinatakiwa kufanya na hela zao kwa mwaka ujao. Kwa sababu sasa tumefanya oversight yetu kama Nyapara, tumeangalia vitabu zote kwa makaunti yote 47, na sasa tumefika mwaka wa 2023-24, which mean kwa kizungu tunasema tuko current. Ndugu Spika, sababu ya hii ni kuwa maeneo gatuzi yetu ndiko umaskini mwingi huko. Maeneo gatuzi zetu ama makaunti vile tunaita ndiko watu wengi wanaishi. Hapo ndiko tunahitaji mabarabara mingi, ndio tunahitaji maji, ndio tunahitaji ukulima, ndio tunahitaji madaktari kwa mashinani. Kwa hivyo ndugu Spika, ningependa kusema kuwa jambo la kwanza kama sisi kama seneti tunatakiwa kufanya ni kuhakikisha kuwa tumuulize rais kwa heshima, ahakikishe kuwa agatue zile kazi ambazo county zinatakiwa kufanya na hela zake. Jambo la pili, ningependa kusema kuwa magavana wamekuwa wakisema kila wakati kuwa hawajapata pesa za serikali, kuwa hata mishahara ilikuwa haijaja. Ndugu Spika, tungependa kuambia ndugu zetu magavana kuwa Wakenya si wajinga sasa. Wakenya wanajua na wakati gani serikali inatoa hela. Hizo hela zinafika kwa maeneo ya magatuzi, makaunti zetu mashinani, na magavana wakipata hizo pesa wanatarajiwa kuzitumia vizuri, zifanye kazi. Ndugu Spika, kaunti yangu ya Kisii, nikizungumza saa hizi kwa CRF account, na gavana yangu amekuwa akiambia watu hamna pesa kutoka kwa serikali kuu, hatuna pesa kutoka serikali kuu. Shilingi bilioni 6.3 ziko kwa Central Bank. Hakuna pesa zinafanya. Wale ambao walikuwa makandarasi hawajalipwa, wafanyikazi wa kaunti wengine wanavutwa kazi, wengine wanaandikwa, kila kitu hakifanyiki, hakuna barabara. Saa hizi mvua imenyesha. Na ndugu Spika, ukiangalia zile shida ambazo ziko katika maeneo yote ya ugatuzi, na hili ndilo jambo ndugu yangu Cherargei alikuwa anasema, ukiwa na heshima unamwambia gavana wako, gavana, pesa mimi ndio nimeuliza, nimezichunga, zimekuja, ziko kwa account, tafadhali utumie hizi pesa usaidie watu wetu. Ndugu Spika, anakusetea guns. Jamaa wanakuja na panga, wengine wamebeba mabunduki. Huyo senator anataka kutunyang'anya ugavana wetu. Huyo senator ndio mwizi. Huyo senator. Ndugu Spika, ningependa kuwaambia magavana wetu, hatuna vita na wao. Wengine wetu hata tutaki kuwa magavana. Kazi yetu ni kuhakikisha zile hela ambazo kaunti kama yangu Kisii napata kila mwaka shilingi bilioni 15. Kwa miaka miwili Kisii imepata shilingi bilioni 30. Ukitoa ndugu Spika pesa za mishahara shilingi bilioni 6.5, bilioni 13 ndio zimeenda kwa mishahara. Shilingi bilioni zingine 16 ama 12 ndizo zimebakia, zinatakiwa ziwafanyie wananchi kazi. Hamna madawa kwa hospitali. Miradi iliyokuwa na tengenezo ya maji haifanyiki. Pesa ambazo zinatoka kwa wale wahifadhi, donor support, zote Kisii County zimesimamishwa. Sababu gani? Kwa sababu zile conditionalities donors wanasema mzifanye hii, mzifanye vile, mmezoea hiyo wizi wenu. Gavana alipoingia huko akatoa wale walikuwa naweka signature, akaweka wake, hakujua sheria inasema hawezi kufanya hivyo. Ukiuliza walimu wa ECD centers, nyinyi maseneta mko hapa wengi kwa maeneo gatuzi yenu, hawajalipwa mishahara. Wengine mishahara wanakula minimum wage. Unaweza kumwandika mtu afunze mtoto wako kutoka darasa la kwanza mpaka la 3 la 4 na unamlipa shilingi 7,000, ndugu Spika. Na huyo ni mtu amesoma, hata wengine wameenda chuo kikuu. Wale wahifadhi wa matibabu, community health workers, ambao ni wa vijiji, ambao mishahara yao wengine serikali ilisema itatenga hela ambazo hawa wananchi watakuwa wanapata. Nini kimefanyika ndugu Spika? Eneo la Kisii County, wale community health workers wangu hawajalipwa. Na unajua ndugu Spika, kwa kaunti ya Kisii CRF nabeba nini? Shilingi bilioni 6 baba. Sasa shida zetu Kenya hii ndizo hizo. Kuna ufisadi, kuna wizi, kuna lack of management, yani mtu anashindwa kuwa manager. Pengine Spika, tuanze kujiuliza kama Wakenya, ule mtu anataka awe governor, jameni, tunataka aende shule gani? Kwa sababu wengi wao kazi imewashinda ndugu Spika. Wengi wao akija ni kuwavuta kazi ya ule gavana aliyekuwa mwanzo aliyemtangulia, awaondoe wale jamaa, kwa sababu hao watu hawako kwa ukoo wake. Alete wake wa ukoo huo awaweke pale kazi, akivunja sheria, ili wao ndio walimpigia kura. Ndio sababu wanataka kuambia, awaelezea kuwa yeye ndio mzuri na ule gavana aliyekuwa mbeleni hapo ni mbaya. Ndugu Spika, na hawa jamaa wote wanaitwa Wakisii. Hawa jamaa wote ni wa Kenya. Hawa jamaa wote wanalipa ushuru. So yale mambo ambayo yanatukera, kama mimi, mambo yanaonishinda ni kuwa tumefika mahala ambako lazima kama Wakenya tujiulize, hizi hela ambazo wananchi wa Kenya wanatoa kama ushuru, hizi hela tunataka tuzilinde vipi? Zinatakiwa zifanye, kwa sababu unaona juzi, na namheshimu sana gavana wa Kakamega, nilikuwa huko kwa huo mkutano, sikutaka kujibu. Anasema kuwa controller ndiye anamnyima pesa. Tunajua kuna mahala ambako controller ndio amekataza magavana wengine wazitoe pesa. Lakini vile ndugu yangu Chirargei alisema, ndugu yangu Speaker, governor anaweza kuenda yale malipo, kwa sababu wakitoa CIDP zile pesa zinakuja zinaingia kwa IFMIS. IFMIS inatoa controller of budget na Ministry of Finance wanafanya ile entry ambako wanasema hizi hela mmefanya budget, yule ambaye atalipwa kazi amefanya ni hii, recurrent ni hii na development na hii. Magavana wanafunga hawa jamaa wasilipwe, alafu wanaleta zile makampuni wanaotaka, wanaleta wale mabibi zao na wale watu wa jamii wao ambao wana kandarasi, ndio sasa wanawalipa, wanawacha wale waliokuwa wamefanya kazi miaka 3, miaka 4, miaka 5 iliyobaki. Shida yetu Kenya ndio hii, kuwa maendeleo ambayo tunayozungumza, katiba iliyoandikwa nchi yetu hii ya mwaka 2010 ni katiba ilikuwa ilete usawa kwa nchi yetu. Ni katiba ambayo ilikuwa matarajio yake na uwezo wake ni kuwa tulikuwa tuna haja ya kuondoa ufisadi katika maendeleo ya Wakenya, ili tujaribu kumaliza umaskini nchini kwetu. Yale ambayo yamepatikana sasa, ndugu Spika, serikali kuu inapora 85 kwa 100, magavana washika 15 wanapora, wanamaliza hiyo. Alafu sasa ndio juzi, ndugu Spika, uliona tukisema enda hapa Kilimani utaona ni kina nani wana manyumba makubwa. Tembea mahali kokote, wa magavana wengine wanadhani wananchi ni wajinga. Hao wakiiba pesa hapo ndio wanajenga masupermarket na wananchi wanaona. Si ati ni vibaya kwa wananchi wajue ati ni wao wamejenga, lakini yale tunayosema, ndugu Spika, hatuwezi kuwa na huruma kwa watu wetu. Miaka 60 watu wetu hana maji ya kunywa. Vile tulienda kwa mheshimiwa Lomaken Turkana, boss, county ambayo imechukua shilingi bilioni 112 baada ya miaka 10 haina maji ya kunywa mji kwa town, na maji ambayo yako chini kwa milima ya aqueduct ya Turkana Lake, hiyo mto unapita hapo kwenu unaitwa nini? Huu mto wa katikati Takwel, mto wa Takwel. Maji yako hapo sijui ni trilioni 2 ya maji. Ile kitu natakikana ni maji kulimwa, yapelekwa kwa mlima, wananchi wapate maji. I say bwana Speaker, bilioni 100 hamwezi tengeza maji. Kaunti yangu miaka 2 sasa, Kisii County, wamepata shilingi bilioni 32 baada ya miaka 2. Na ukitembea mahala hamna. Stadium Kisii haijatengenezwa. Mahospitali hakuna madawa. Hapo kwa hiyo hospitali hakuna maji. Wale watu ambao wanakuja zamani na wengine hawa magavana wanasema ati on source revenue tume increase. Sasa nime increase yangu mpaka 75%. Sasa mimi natengeneza 800. Hamna. Zile pesa wanaita on source revenue ni zile pesa wanavuja kutoka wapi? Kutoka kwa hospitali zile ndogo ndogo na hizi hospitali kubwa, kwa sababu wananchi hawana option. Gavana ambaye amefanya kazi ya kuokota hela ambazo ni ushuru wananchi wa Murang'a wamelipa, huyu gavana wa Murang'a amefanya kazi nzuri, ndugu Spika. Ametumia teknolojia, anaenda anaokota hela kutoka kwa wale ambao wanajenga, wale ambao wana nyumba, wale ambao shilingi bilioni 1.5. Na sababu ni hii, wale ambao wako kwa komiti yake ya kimaendeleo ni wale vigogo wamefanya biashara kutoka mlima kule juu Murang'a. Waangalie mwenye Equity Bank, waangalie mwenye hawa jamaa wote. Asante ndugu Spika, kwa kunipa hii fursa.
Senator Onyonka, this debate shall resume in the afternoon.
Thank you.
You will have a remainder of 8 minutes.
Thank you.
Honorable Senators, it is now 1 p.m., time to adjourn the Senate. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until later today, Wednesday, 27th November 2024 at 2:30 p.m.